Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1385 of the War News stream, and we have very big news once again today. We've seen that Lithuania has activated a state of emergency over Belarusian airspace incursions. We've also seen that a British soldier has mysteriously been killed in Ukraine, and also the Thailand-Cambodia situation is escalating out of control, even worse than midday today, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, folks, we're going to be covering the past 48 hours of major news from around the world. And over the past 48 hours, the world has caught on fire. Again, it's happening every day. We have been able to hear that Lithuania has now declared an official state of emergency within their country and their airspace after multiple violations have been conducted by the air forces or aircraft of the Republic of Belarus and the Russian Federation. In particular, the use of balloons in large numbers inside of Lithuania's airspace has led to such significant closures that a large part of the airspace is almost constantly being affected by the Belarusian balloons, or more so, the Russian-Belarusian balloons. As a result, the country is now declared a state of emergency and is most likely going to be taking armed action against the balloons and armed action to secure their skies and airspace here within the very near future. Meanwhile, just south in Ukraine, a British soldier has been killed under mysterious conditions inside the country. According to an official statement by the British Ministry of Defense, they've declared that the British soldier died while in a training accident dozens of miles away from the front line, and it did not involve a direct attack or death that was created by the Russian Federation's actions through force of arms. Nevertheless, it is a mysterious instance for that matter, and one of the first times we've heard of a British soldier being killed inside of Ukraine. Meanwhile, we have also heard that Thailand and Cambodia are at a full-blown war at this moment, and that the Thai air forces are currently conducting significant airstrikes against Cambodian positions. From what we are understanding, the frontline situation is well in the favor of the Thai at this moment, with significant offensives being conducted by the Royal Thai Army into Cambodian territory, supported by air support. We are seeing that the Cambodians are conducting return fire with mass artillery barrages in the form of BM-21 MLRS Grad fire, which is mass saturating areas along the Thai border. A NOTAM has been declared, and the Thai government has made it incredibly clear that they will not be bending their knee to the United States government at any single instance, whether or not the United States wants a peace. The Thai have stated that they don't even remember having a peace agreement that was ever negotiated by the United States at this point, and they will continue their armed actions against the Kingdom of Cambodia until Cambodia no longer poses a threat to the country. The United States has weighed in, and the Secretary of State is begging that both sides adhere to the Kuala Lumpur Agreement, considering that this is an open failure of U.S. foreign policy at this moment within Southeast Asia. Meanwhile, the air defense identification zone of South Korea lit up today with several dozen Russian and Chinese aircraft entering the southern and eastern regions of the South Korean air defense identification zone. This resulted in South Korean forces going to a state of high alert over the course of the day, particularly that of the Republic of Korea's Air Force, as they waited to see if the Russians and the Chinese were going to be conducting any potential action against the country. This is one of the first times we've seen a joint operation by the Chinese and the Russians against South Korean airspace, and it is once again showing that the Russian Federation and China are starting to work in conjunction for strategic interests within Eastern Asia. The Liaoning Carrier Strike Group has also conducted operations against Japan in the past 48 hours, with the Japanese government now showing more increased frustration with the United States of America, not only due to the U.S.'s complete lack of a response and support for the state of Japan, but also due to the endless U.S. messaging that Japan is actually supposed to back off and allow the People's Republic of China to conduct open and endless aggression against the state of Japan without any stopping. We have also heard that a significant earthquake hit near to the northern area of Japan, near to the islands of Sendai and Hokkaido. We do understand that the Japanese self-defense forces are currently deploying to Aomori, which is a northern town on the mainland island of Sendai, or more so, the mainland island, if I can get the name correct here. It is not Sendai, actually. It's another name for the main island. But nevertheless, they are deploying to the northern part of the main island of Japan. We have also seen in other significant developments in news within the Middle East that the Israelis are actually getting into tense standoffs with the Jelani regime at this moment within the southern part of the country, as maneuvers are still being conducted by the Jelani regime and the Republic of Turkey against the Syrian Democratic Forces of the north. Meanwhile, the Israelis are also stating that the Russians serve a vital interest of the state of Israel and are considered something of a friendly country. That's quite suspicious. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia is also deploying their forces into Yemen at this moment, as a UAE-backed faction is actually starting to take actions against the central Yemeni government. It is believed at this moment that Saudi forces, which are already pouring into Yemen, may actually have to take action not only against the UAE-backed faction within the country, but also against the Iranian-backed Houthis within the western part of the country. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces have continued to hold their lines today, and while not a large amount of combat footage came out, we were able to see that the Russians still took major hits around the area of Cheboksary, and not only that, we also were able to hear of 2 Russian pilots dying in a Looney Tunes style form of death as their ejection seats went off while in the hangar. Both of them went and splatted into the roof and accordioned and then fell back to the ground. Both pilots died instantaneously as a result of the incident. Meanwhile, the Russian Federation's gas prices are also skyrocketing, with Russian gas per gallon now costing 8% more than the U.S. average. This is also coming as the Russian Federation has made it clear through the statements of a top advisor to President Putin that they consider themselves to be at war with the entirety of Europe, and they are not going to be believing that victory is achieved until they have not only defeated Ukraine, but the entirety of Europe as well. This has resulted in a security meeting which happened yesterday on Monday between the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and the President and Chancellor of France and Germany, along with President Volodymyr Zelensky. After this meeting was concluded, the Ukrainians have made it incredibly clear that they will not be conducting any territorial concessions whatsoever. And according to the Ukrainian delegation leader of the United Nations, he has stated that the Russians will get the whole of a bagel before they ever get a piece of territory in Ukraine.
Honestly, I can go right next to the other quote of "I need ammo, not a ride." That's a pretty nice quote. I like that bagel one.
Honestly, it was a pretty good one. Meanwhile, in the hunt for the Captain Craig Sparrow and his band of 40 thieves, the United States is still conducting more actions against Venezuela at this moment, although they are actually quite smaller in tempo over the past 48 hours than seen prior. The United States has also activated Western Hemisphere Command and is also appointing a 4-star general to this command, the first time in such U.S. history that this has ever been conducted. Meanwhile, we are also hearing within the Washington, D.C. that we'll only be giving $800 million to Ukraine over the next 2 years. We're also planning on having a peace in Ukraine by Christmas, and most importantly, we are continuing to say that Putin is one hell of a guy, one tough cat, I'll tell you that. At least that's what the U.S. government's saying, not us. But, of course, folks, we have to cover All of this news and a million other little pieces of news that I didn't even get to cover in the summary that we're giving right here. And that's just a summary, by the way. We're about to have to get into all of that and get into the great detail of it. And of course, folks, as tradition states on this channel, we'll be starting with the largest story first and then working our way on down into the smaller ones throughout the night. Moving us on into the major news of the day, we are going to be moving directly into Europe, and particularly into Lithuania, as we have now heard that Lithuania, as a nation, has declared a national emergency due to the ongoing airspace violations by Belarusian balloons. These have been claimed, like Noel Reports has stated, as smuggler balloons, but due to prior statements directly from Lukashenko, the dictator of Belarus, or Lukashenko, considering that we do not give him the respect of giving him the masculine form of his name, has actually stated publicly that the Belarusian government is working in conjunction with these smugglers, and that this is a state-sanctioned activity. Not making this smuggler balloons, these are official balloons of the Republic of Belarus being launched on the orders of Lukashenko. From what we understand, the Interior Ministry has stated in Lithuania that the balloons pose a threat to national security and disrupt civil aviation, even forcing significant delays continuously at the Vilnius International Airport, the main artery and airway into the country. The new status allows faster response and military involvement and will be reassessed in a month. This declaration of a national emergency allows for the Lithuanian armed forces, which are somewhat numerous, at least for a Baltic state, to be mobilized in accordance to the national emergency and to be able to conduct airspace defense along the area of the border. Considering that Lithuanian ground defense forces, or more so the armed forces of the Republic of Lithuania, are quite well armed and incredibly well equipped, especially compared to their Baltic counterparts, it is highly believed that they will be able to conduct a fairly significant air defense campaign against the Belarusian balloons. They of course do have some of the most elite units within the Baltics to call upon, including that of the Iron Wolf Brigade and also the Zemitaya Brigade, which could be called to go to the area of eastern Lithuania near to the Belarusian border and to engage and shoot down any balloons that are spotted either by radar or visually from the ground. We also understand that the Lithuanians may start to mobilize reservists if the situation requires, but at the moment we generally understand that they're going to be using contract troops only and will not be calling forward any reservists or any conscript troops that are also conscripted by the Republic of Lithuania on a fairly regular basis. Lithuania is planning on moving into a full professional force contract only by around 2027 to 2028, but at the moment it's largely a contract/conscript mixed force, with the two brigades, the Iron Wolf and the Zemitaya, being the two contract-only units. However, at the moment, it does seem that Lithuania is going to be generally trying to ramp up their responses, and it doesn't really appear that they are the first, of course. We already know that not only has the Netherlands fired upon Russian drones recently, but France also fired on several Russian drones that were hovering over the Île-Longue, or the Long Island Naval Facility, near to the area of Brest within the Normandy area of France. We also understand that because of these actions, NATO, or at least the European contingent of NATO, is starting to take far more amounts, or far larger amounts, of armed actions and armed responses to the ongoing situation. Not only that, just recently, the Netherlands actually had another airspace violation conducted around 36 hours ago within their airspace, and they actually scrambled two F-35 Lightnings of the Royal Dutch Air Force to intercept and destroy the drones. Unfortunately, the drones went missing off radar. Either they were too low to the ground, or the radar just wasn't able to pick them up due to their smaller size, and for this reason, the F-35s were not able to engage or shoot down the drones that were over Dutch airspace. These drones did slip back into the night, but still showing that the Netherlands are taking a policy of hands rated E for everyone as far as drones are concerned. If a drone is flying in Dutch airspace at this point and it is not identified by the central government, they will be giving orders to fire at these drones and shoot them down by any means necessary. It also appears that Lithuania will be following suit with that sort of a policy due to the declaration of the national emergency. And Matthew, what are people thinking of this declaration of national emergency? That's actually going to give the Lithuanian military the ability legally to engage and shoot down these drones over Lithuanian skies. Are people thinking that that's a good move, or are people thinking that that's not a great thing?
So it looks like 61% of the audience said that is the right move to declare a state of emergency in Lithuania, and that's a very good deal, while 17% said it's good, but they need to close the border with Belarus as well, and 15% said Lithuania still won't defend itself even after declaring a state of emergency. So I would say personally, Lithuania needs to get that border closed. And that seems to be something they need to get done because, of course, if Belarus is aggressing on Lithuania with these smuggler balloons and Lithuania is alleging that Belarus is doing it on purpose, then why would you keep your land border open with an enemy state like that, considering that they're attacking you with this hybrid warfare? So I would say, what is Belarus going to do? If the border gets closed, is Belarus really going to go to war over that? And I would say probably not. So it's good they declared a state of emergency, but I say go a step further and get the border closed because it only makes sense. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to agree with Enforcer Matt and also the 64% that this is a good move and it's probably going to end up being pretty beneficial for the Lithuanians. Considering that the Vilnius International Airport is, by all intents and purposes, directly along the Belarusian border, you can actually see the Vilnius International Airport right here. And if we were to measure that airport to the border, or the nearest border at least, it is only 18 miles away. That is the main air corridor into the country, and it is only 18 miles away from the Belarusian border, meaning that any airspace violations of any kind coming from the Belarusian border practically shut down the Vilnius International Airport immediately every single time due to its proximity to the border and the proximity to the ongoing incident. Not only that, 18 miles or so to the border is well within the air control territory of the air traffic controllers in the towers at the Vilnius International Airport, and if there is ever an ongoing incident where airspace has to be closed, they are actually having to close down the Vilnius airspace for the air traffic control entirely and divert flights elsewhere like we've been seeing over prior weeks. So this means that this is a pretty good move, but I'd also have to agree that further action needs to be taken by Lithuania. Primarily, action needs to be taken directly against the Republic of Belarus for its terroristic actions of stopping thousands of Lithuanian truckers from crossing back over the border and into Lithuania, and Lithuania should also consider or heavily threaten the cessation of the treaty that allows for Russian trucks and trains to pass from Belarus through Lithuania and into Kaliningrad. That is an incredibly provocative and escalatory action to say the least, but it should be threatened by the Lithuanians, and there should be general support and backing throughout the entirety of NATO, or at least the European contingent of NATO, to show that there is actually teeth behind that open threat that will possibly make the Russians maybe put pressure on the Belarusians to back off and stop their acts of smuggling balloons being launched into Lithuania to disrupt the airspace, or it may lead to further escalations from the Russian side. Either way, the West cannot back down, as we can see. Backing down only allows them to go even farther, and the end result always ends up becoming worse. So I would say that Lithuania needs to start taking much harsher action due to the ongoing and endless harassment that the Belarusians are conducting against their country, including the complete closure of the border, the possible threatening of the cessation of the land border treaty, and also the Lithuanian armed forces, which are already being mobilized to shoot down any balloons or drones that will enter the airspace of the Republic of Lithuania. So with that, we are going to be moving on from that major news, considering that that is a fairly significant development, and we're actually going to be moving our way on down into Thailand and Cambodia. Because, folks, this war has actually turned into a full-blown war. Now, the last war in between Thailand and Cambodia, we actually dubbed the 7-Eleven War here on the channel because the Cambodians kept barraging and bombarding 7-Elevens that were on the Thai side of the border. And so for that reason, it generally was dubbed the 7-Eleven War here on the channel. This second phase of the war is going to be called the Casino War because I have never heard of so many casinos getting blown up within such a short amount of time as this war. Practically every casino near to the Cambodian border is being obliterated in Thai airstrikes because apparently every single Cambodian command is within a casino. I'm not even kidding. That appears to actually be the case now, that they operate the entire military out of casinos. So either they're the mafia.
Yeah, gotta work hard, play hard. I'm telling you what, every time a casino gets hit, every time one gets blown up, it's like Mario Kart or something. There's like gold coins bouncing out the top of the roof. It's really a situation, honestly. It's kind of rough. Also, by the way, you gotta be close to your playing time too. Like, you know, when you get off work, you don't have to go far. Just walk straight over to the gambling floor and go have at it.
I gotta be honest with y'all, folks. I've just never seen anything like this. And I see a lot of people saying this is absolutely absurd. It truly is absurd. And I'm about to get y'all right into everything that's been going on today as a result. We're going to start just to give you all the lay of the land of how we're going to go through this to make it as efficient as possible and easy to follow. We're first going to cover every single frontline development and armed act that has been conducted over the past 48 hours along the entirety of the border that we have video and picture evidence for. And then we're going to be moving into Thai government statements that have been officially made over the past 48 hours. hours, and then we're going to be moving into the U.S. statement that has been made about the matter, with that marker in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, considering that's where the peace treaty that the United States so successfully got ratified was signed. So we're going to be moving through it in that order. Moving us into our first bits of news. And we're not going to be covering this, by the way, in any particular order on the front in terms of time sequence. We're just going to cover all of the markers and events that we have from the entire border, starting from the south and moving our way north and also east. Starting down in the area of the Chantaburi region, we were able to see a large amount of Thai armored forces on the move, including some FV-101 Scorpions and M103s of some form of a Thai mechanized brigade. FV-101 Scorpions are generally considered to be light tanks or armored reconnaissance vehicles. In most countries these days, they are fairly light in firepower, but are small, have a low profile, and are incredibly maneuverable. This allows for them to conduct a decent amount of reconnaissance, and also provide some direct fire support to infantry that are engaging the Cambodian army on the other side. As we can see, there is a larger number of them here, now followed by M113 APCs, which we would assume are carrying the infantry of this mechanized brigade. Due to Thailand's and Cambodia's jungle environment, the Thai army is actually more so acclimated to jungle fighting, meaning that they don't really invest heavily in incredibly large and expensive main battle tanks. You'll actually see that the majority of their armed forces are smaller vehicles, usually like an FV-101 Scorpion, considering that the harsh jungle environments and also the heavy vegetation within the areas makes it fairly difficult for main battle tanks to be used to their full capacity. These sorts of smaller, lighter hitting vehicles are actually more effective within this form of jungle cover. We also saw more armored columns on the move a little bit further north in this clip, showing us some Type 85 APCs that were also on the move as well. These are actually purchased from the People's Republic of China.
I forgot that this war right here is basically like a pitting of Chinese equipment versus the Western equipment in Thailand. It's basically that. So we can see how Chinese equipment works again. The Chinese equipment actually worked pretty decent for the Pakistanis when they got into it with the Indians. So I wonder how it's going to work for the Cambodians.
I wonder how it's going to work, because generally the Thai have a small number of Chinese arms within their inventory, and then the Cambodians are pretty much using everything that China had in the 70s. So we're going to get to see how modern Chinese and American and everyone else's equipment goes up against Chinese equipment from the 70s, which I think we can all kind of tell how that's going to go. The Thai are going to steamroll the Cambodians. Additionally, along the border, we also got to see that the Thai just took a pot shot at the 3rd Support Division's mascot, which is a golden horse, and completely obliterated it. And it's gone.
Oh, wow. That was the unlucky horse.
Man, they're hyped. Like, honestly.
Yeah, the war is over. It's over, guys. We can go home now. We just have a couple more years to go.
They're happy about that, and you know, it's nice to see they blew up a golden horse. But moving on from that and further down the front, we also saw, moving on into the Surin region and generally the area of Sisaket, which is around this area of the border, we also got to see Thai army forces firing at a drone that was apparently launched by Cambodian forces. Neither Thailand or Cambodia has been seen at this moment to be using FPV drones or any form of armed drones in a larger amount. It appears that at the moment both sides are actually using drones the traditional role that they had in Ukraine, which was in the form of reconnaissance and maybe some light strike abilities. The Thai still engaged the drone, however, considering that reconnaissance can be as deadly as direct fire, depending on what intelligence they gather, and they were able to apparently shoot down the drone. But here's the clip. We can see this beautiful M16A2 being used to fire at the drone, which is right up there. The Cambodians don't really seem to know how to use it too well because it was very stationary and at a bit of a lower altitude.
Yeah, and shoot a little higher. That's right. Oh, they got it.
Oh, they got it. It's on. The lithium battery's on fire. Oh. Oh, my God.
It's only a forest fire now. Oh no, they have just gotten introduced to drone warfare. If they were familiar with it, they wouldn't be cheering like that because those come by the thousands.
Man, they would look like that painting of that U.S. soldier at like the, what was it, Hacksaw Ridge? You know, where he was looking at the camera, or what, like the first person perspective, and he was just looking shell shocked. That's how you really look when you know what drone warfare can turn into. We also heard that the Royal Thai Army has issued a NOTAM along the entirety of the border region with Cambodia due to ongoing military activities and the possibility of ground air defense fire being fired from Cambodia and striking civilian aircraft within the area. On the other side of the border, a lot started to happen, and this is where we are getting the dub for this part of the war, the casino war, into the name in this area. We were able to see that the Cambodians did film their positions prior to the strikes, and I gotta tell y'all folks, I think the Cambodians are truly cooked. It appears that they're using Glad trash bags to form sandbags around their positions, and it also appears that they have an M109 106mm recoilless gun, or some form of a similar recoilless rifle on a tripod, which seems to be their only form of direct fire against the Royal Thai Army. That is generally considered obsolete for the most part these days. We can also see that they have connected to the trigger an absurdly long string that is strung around a piece of bamboo, so that when they pull the string, it gets pulled back on the bamboo stick and it pulls the trigger, allowing for them to fire it kind of in an indirect form, kind of like a Stugna, but not really. We can also see him showing the bottles of bottled water, and also the huge amounts of cases of 106mm recoilless rifle ammunition that is sitting right next to the gun. So if the gun gets hit, that's probably going up as well in some form of a fire and leading to a catastrophic explosion, which will destroy the entire emplacement. Not really a good sort of a design, to be entirely honest with y'all. The Thai have decided, regardless or not whether the Cambodians can build their defensive positions and emplacements worth a damn, that they're still going to go after the Cambodian command. And this is where things get very interesting. Up around the border area of Thailand and Cambodia, in the town of Smak, it appears that the Thai have actually smacked a casino within the area and have completely obliterated. This was the second casino, mind you all, that had been hit so far in the war. And we can see the smoke rising from it right here.
Rumor has it they went in for some poker, and they sort of lost their poker face after that one.
I've actually heard, Matthew, that apparently the Cambodian command actually folded in this airstrike. But that's a very...
It turns out this was not just poker. This was a special form of poker called hot poker.
Man, you know what they said, man? You know what the Thai said, man? They said they looked down through their little optical lens from the F-16, and they said, you know, seems like they're pretty good at gambling. All in on red. We should like slammed it with a JDAM. Like,
what do we have here?
Man, and then also, if you thought that Osmak was a pretty wild sort of a hit in itself, and also I'm heavily mispronouncing that, by the way, for comedic effect, that is not the actual pronunciation of the town's name. We are now going to be moving on down to Samreong, where another casino was also hit. Two casinos in the same province within one day. Like, it's actually crazy. Here's the other casino that got hit as well.
Cambodia. You know what's funny though about this whole thing right here is there's actually a political reason. I believe that these casinos are getting struck. I had heard at least some speculation that there was some type of issue with the legislation or something involving casinos in those two countries. They were fighting over something about casinos. So there actually may be a strategic reason they're doing this, and an actual political reason they're striking these, more than just meets the eye.
Let's see. I actually, Mandy, I was thinking I had heard something out there a while ago, like a long time ago. I had to go check it here really quickly before I said it. The Cambodian army actually owns a lot of these casinos directly.
Aha. So that might explain why they're using them as, allegedly using them as command centers.
But still, the Royal Thai Army is not sparing a single casino, and it actually appears, folks, that Thailand's taking more to fight gambling addiction than any other country at this point. Very impressive. Additionally, we also saw, moving further along the border, that a BM-21 Grad of the Royal Cambodian Army was also conducting a rocket barrage against Thailand.
Damn, I wonder how many 7-Elevens are going to hit this time.
I wonder. They actually obliterated a lot of 7-Elevens last time. Hopefully we won't see incredibly high civilian casualties, because I actually believe that civilians are fleeing both sides of the border in every direction possible to try and get away from the active fighting. So hopefully we won't see a lot of civilian casualties this time. We did see, speaking of those civilian casualties, that masses of people in Cambodia that were not pre-evacuated where the Cambodians conducted their original attack near to Ubon Ratchathani are now evacuating themselves as best they can. I don't know what these
This is
things...
the sad part of it. Oh, you talking about that? Isn't that a tiller?
I was thinking it was a tiller. I was about to say, is that a tiller? Because they had like dozens of these in this clip, by the way.
Or it's a tractor that's had like the... Wait a minute, hold on. That's a I think that's a tractor, actually. They've like cut the body or the cab off the tractor and they just like left the transmission exposed. I've never seen anything like that. That was a Rodnik.
I mean, there's a gazillion of these, though. It looks like they're actually manufactured this way.
That may be a tiller. Someone said a rice plow. I mean, I'm not sure what that looks like. Let me pull it up real quick. Let's see here. Rice plow. Yeah, that actually looks like a rice plow. Actually, it could be. They've added real tires and wheels to it, because a rice plow doesn't have tires and wheels like that. It has like these wooden like wheels on them, some weird thing. But it could be.
I mean, look at how many of them there are. There are quite literally dozens of these little tiller-like vehicles skittering around everywhere with wagons attached. Incredibly unfortunate to see that tens of thousands of people on every side of the border, if not hundreds of thousands, are going to be displaced from this fighting. But, of course, as many of you all know, this is war, and it's better for them to be out of the area than in it, considering that this war seems to be completely unavoidable by every measure.
I will admit though, like it's kind of it's a little bit jank. I'm not going to lie, like the rice plow carrying the wagon, but it's actually not that bad from an ingenuity standpoint. They get to use the farm implement as their transportation if they get desperate.
Yeah, I mean, it really is actually quite ingenious, really, to think about it, because you only have to buy the one vehicle and you can get around everywhere and also conduct farming to make your living. So pretty smart.
My only question is this, though. Those things are going pretty fast. I mean, what are they doing? Like rice plowing at turbo speed? I'm like, why is the thing able to go so fast?
Man, when you gotta plow the fields to plant the rice harvest at 10, and you gotta get to the family function at 11, you gotta get your.
They've got like a 6-speed transmission on that rice plow. That thing's gonna be plowing through the field at turbo speed.
Man, honestly, we also saw a little bit of a fire being conducted by the Royal Thai Army against the Cambodians. Apparently, this is some sort of a rooftop to a temple that the Thai were firing at, but they did obliterate it through the course of this clip. From what we understand, we're looking through the camera inside of one of the Thai main battle tanks. We're believing that it may be a VT-4 as it's firing, and the commander is giving instructions to the gunner on how to adjust his fire to actually hit the target. There's the first shot, and it hits dead on. So it does
Hit them.
Man, that guy said, "Dang, man!" It's like, yo, get him. It's like he's into it. We also saw further on down near to the area of Angkrong that a company headquarters was destroyed near to the area of the Prey of Ahar temple. To show y'all where this is, we actually kind of have a pretty good idea of the exact location of that. This is the Prey of Ahar temple right here, and we actually understand that some building around this area of the temple was actually directly hit and caught on fire as a result of this impact. So apparently, the Cambodian Company 1 headquarters near to the area was completely destroyed in a direct fire situation by the Royal Thai Army. Additionally, we also saw further down the border, not too far from there, that more Thai forces were moving into the area, with M113 APCs being the primary form of armored personnel carrier seen so far. We've also seen overnight near to the Prey of Ahar temple area that the Thai Army is now firing star shells to illuminate the area and to facilitate the ability to fight the Cambodians at night, considering that both sides do not have an incredibly large number of NVDs or nods to hand out to most of their infantry. You hear the firefight in the distance. As the audio suggests, this star shell is really helping them see the Cambodians. And apparently someone just dropped a Tupperware in the background. That had nothing to do with the firefight, by the way.
It feels like this time the genie's out of the bottle with this situation. Like, it seems like since they've restarted, they've like fully committed to just absolutely decimating each other. I just don't see the thing stopping this time. I think it's out of control.
Yeah, I think it is actually out of control. And to finish off our frontline clips, we also got to see another grad barrage being conducted by the Royal Cambodian Army against the Thai inside of Ubon Ratchathani. I'm not saying the Thai army in this particular instance because due to the 7-11 war, which was seen earlier in the year, it's quite clear that the Cambodians are not really targeting anything in particular. Rather, they are quite literally just firing into Thailand hoping to kill someone. So it could be a civilian, it could be a soldier, could be anyone. So they're really more so firing at the Thai in general rather than the Thai army. You hear the sound of the barrage off in the distance.
That's gunfire?
No, that's rocket fire right there.
Jeez, I thought it was like a fighter jet or something.
No, it sounds like it. You would think it's that, but it's actually just a 121 millimeter grad. I think it is a 121 millimeter. Actually, I think it's 122, but that's beside the point. But it's firing dozens of rockets all at one point, just trying to saturate an area with as much rocket fire in Thailand as it possibly can. You can actually see the rockets there. There are those white blips that are popping up for a second. Many can tell, considering that we have clips ranging down the entire border at this moment, and firefights are happening everywhere right now, that this has gone pretty crazy pretty quickly. And it does appear that we've also heard, although I didn't include these official announcements, that the Royal Thai Army has actually taken some small amounts of ground in Cambodia already. We've heard that apparently Thai Army forces have crossed into Phnom Penh inside of the border region, and we've also heard of Thai forces apparently crossing the border around Bong Chakon at the moment. We haven't been able to independently verify the location of those forces, so for that reason, that's why we do not have an official marker on the map confirming that. However, there are rumors that the Royal Thai Army has actually taken up some positions across the border inside of Cambodia, which is showing that the Thai, if those assessments are correct, are actually going all in against the Cambodians and are attempting to wage a full war against Cambodia. A lot of people have actually been thinking, while they've been looking at all of this combat footage from the front, what's going to be happening as an end result of this war. It already appears that the Thai have complete control of the situation once more, and are hammering the Cambodian armed forces on the other side of the border. And so, Matthew, what are people thinking about this at the moment, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so clearly Thailand is not messing around. Neither is Cambodia, actually, even though Thailand is the only country here with an air force. Thailand is now airstriking the provincial capital cities in Cambodia, which is a big escalation compared to last time. So where is this conflict going to lead now that they have basically committed to destroying each other at this point? So 72% said Cambodia will get ravaged, while 5% said Thailand will get ravaged, and 10% said a new peace deal is still possible. So I would say personally, I would be sort of surprised if a peace deal in the short term is possible, because Thailand is saying basically screw off to everybody. They're saying we're going to go in there and take care of those Cambodians. And the Cambodians are not really saying the exact same thing. They're sort of taking a more neutral approach, but they're also counterattacking severely. So I would say that Cambodia is in foul shape. Cambodia does not have an air force, meaning they don't have air dominance. And that is going to be critical in this war right here, because as you can tell, the Thailand forces rely heavily on F-16 airstrikes to go in and take out crucial targets inside of Cambodia. And with Cambodia not having an air force, they have no way to defend against that. But that's not a deciding factor, though, because Ukraine did not have air superiority for a pretty long time. And some still argue that maybe they still don't, although I would say not so in the modern day. But Ukraine still won even through that, even without air superiority. But at the same time, though, Ukraine had more modern Western weapons, while Cambodia is working with the nastiest, oldest stuff you can imagine. So And also they do have some modern Chinese equipment in there too, but it's not as plentiful as that old equipment. So me personally, I think Cambodia is in foul shape. I'm with the 72%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say they're cooked. There's no chance in hell that they're going to make it out of this. And I also want to say really quickly, Matthew is correct that there is some Chinese equipment that is modern that's in the Cambodian army. But I also have to give you all the caveat that that's the Chinese Humvee, and that's it. That's the only modern equipment that they got.
It counts. China. It counts.
Like I have to clarify that though. It's just Humvees, and they're not even the armored variant. They're the unarmored, soft skin variants of the Humvee, so they don't even have the bulletproof glass. This guy also is just surfing that iPhone like there's no tomorrow in there. Look at him. He's really enjoying that Huawei, isn't he? But outside of that, this is actually the, let me make sure, the Dongfeng Mingxi. It's not a Humvee. It's a Dongfeng Mingxi. Get that correct, folks. But outside of that, that's the only modern vehicle that they have from China. Everything else is ancient. And I mean damn ancient. I mean, this is like early Cold War equipment that they have. The best tank that they have is actually, no joke, a T-55, which is this. This is the worst that Russia is using right now in the war in Ukraine. After 3.5 years, almost 4 almost, of fighting in Ukraine, Russia's finally gotten whittled down to these are fairly common on the front line. This is Cambodia's starting tank. Their in tank is the Type 59, which is the paper-thin variant of the T-55. So they are quite cooked in terms of armor. If you look at what the Thai have modern tanks. They have the T-84 Oplot from Ukraine. They have the VT-4 from China, which is the newest, latest, and greatest export main battle tank from the Chinese. And while it's a general Soviet-inspired design, it's still going to be far more competent than a T-55 or a Type 59. And the endless varieties of main battle tanks and equipment from other countries that is incredibly competent, especially compared to this. This is literally early Cold War equipment. They also only have 70 light tanks. They're all Chinese. They have this, the Type 63, aka the ripoff PT-76, and they also have the Type 62, aka the paper skin Type 59, but with even more paper skin. So this light tank here quite literally has no armor. It's actually been reported that a heavy machine gun can punch through the armor of this quote-unquote tank if you hit the right spots. They also have some BMP-1s, which once again are quite antiquated at this point. And then in terms of APCs, it's hopeless for them. They have OT-64s from the Czechoslovakia, which doesn't even exist anymore. They also have BTR-60s from East Germany. That country also doesn't exist anymore. They also have BTR-152s from the People's Republic of Poland, which is also a country that does not exist anymore. They additionally have YW-531s. These were actually used by the Chinese when Mao Zedong was alive. So this is quite literally an ancient relic at this point. And they also have some ZFB-05s, which are made in Cambodia. I'm sure many of y'all can tell that by how bad it looks. And then they also have 20 Tiger armored cars. And these basically serve no purpose in Ukraine, and they're non-existent now in the war in Ukraine because they had paper-thin armor as well. So basically their army is completely unequipped in terms of actual equipment. They do have a lot of grads, I will say that. Like, they have a gazillion grads, but beyond that, they have quite literally nothing else. If you look at their small arms even, I mean, it's literally like a Vietnam-era hodgepodge of stuff. I mean, outside of the K2s, and the K1 and the CQ, everything else could have been used in Vietnam back in the 70s and the 60s, and it would have completely fit because it was around then. So they are completely screwed, simply put. There's no way that the Thai are ever going to be on the back foot. They have the advantage in equipment by decades. They are about 60 years ahead of the Cambodians militarily and technology. They are well ahead in funding and training, and not only that, their economy is far larger and will be able to manage to carry on this war for a while, especially considering that Cambodia is probably not going to be getting any foreign support in this conflict. It also
that's the only variable to me, because as far as we know, while China does generally support Cambodia diplomatically, they have not publicly committed to actually defending Cambodia with weapons or any type of on-the-ground physical actions. China is not really committing to anything like that. But at the same time, though, if it starts looking like Thailand is putting the whooping on Cambodia, I wonder if that's going to push China to actually take a position and actually maybe change their stance to be more aggressive and actually take some sort of real action to defend Cambodia.
It's possible, but considering that China is attempting to build relations with Thailand and Cambodia, and actually has significant relations with both, this may actually lead China's hands to be tied, and especially considering that the United States may actually start taking reciprocal actions against both of them, there isn't really anything pressing in this situation that would foresee Chinese intervention or involvement in support of Cambodia, especially considering that the Thai, as far as today went, have pretty much told the U.S. they can go F off and leave them alone, and they'll do what they want. And I also got to get y'all to that news, because it's showing at the moment that U.S.-Thai relations apparently are being preempted by the Thai, and they were pretty much crushing them on their own because of the possibility of what's to come. So, to explain really quickly, because I've seen a lot of people talking about this, and we do have to explain this because this is a little bit more of a fringe conflict. It's not one that has dominated headlines and main pages of articles for people to read about a lot. I'm going to give you all a little bit of a refresher of everything that's going on for the past few decades, and most importantly, the past year with us. So to sum up the past few decades, Thailand and Cambodia absolutely hate each other. They have slightly different cultures, and also on top of that, they claim the ownership of this one temple right here, which is a Pray of a Heart temple in this area of the border. Thailand says it's theirs, Cambodia says it's theirs, and they just keep saying that it's theirs. They hate each other's guts over this very matter. That's literally the whole reason this war is being fought, is over who owns a single temple that's on the border. And this has been fought over in international court for years. In the earlier part of this year, they actually went to blowing each other to pieces over it, primarily because Cambodia had actually slipped across the border and planted anti-personnel landmines on a Thai army footpath, which led to a Thai army soldier stepping on one. The mine exploded, and it ended up wounding 2 soldiers, with both soldiers having to have their legs amputated as a result of the explosion. That's what actually started off the 7-11 war earlier on in the year, which led to a pretty significant amount of fighting, and then the United States stepped in. And this is where things get fairly interesting. The United States admonished both parties, did not recognize any fault or an aggressor party in the situation, and then forced through economic leverage of significant tariffs and sanctions against both countries that they go to the negotiating table and accept a ceasefire and a peace, although the ceasefire and the peace did not resolve the underlying problem as to who owned the temple. It did not address that at all. So they accepted the ceasefire. They then went to Kuala Lumpur, and with the United States being a third-party intermediary, threatening both of them, there would be significant reprisals by the United States if they didn't accept the peace treaty. They accepted it. Neither side was incredibly happy with it, from what we understand. That's basically the story of every single foreign policy decision by the United States this year, is that neither side was happy. But neither side was happy, and the Cambodians immediately went to crossing the border again and planting landmines on Thai footpaths. Again, just recently, another Thai soldier stepped on another landmine and was killed, and we've also seen in actual video and picture evidence that the Cambodian army has directly fired on Thai positions, not only violating the ceasefire, but the ratified peace treaty multiple times prior. Just several days ago, we then saw that the Cambodian army started to evacuate civilians from the border areas of Sisaket and Ubon Ratchathani, and not that long after, about 8 to 12 hours after that started to occur, we then heard that Thai forces had been engaged on the border at Ubon Ratchathani, with 2 Thai soldiers dead as a result of the attack. That's what started the actual conflict at this point. And once again, it generally was never going to end because, to explain the foreign policy side of things here, when you make a peace treaty, you're actually supposed to settle once and for all the actual issue that led to the war. Whether it is the complete collapse of another government through unconditional surrender, or the temple is given to one party or the other, and all is fair and square, and everything's settled from this point forward, and everyone agrees on that, you can't just say there is going to be a peace and that's that. You have to actually fix the issue that underlies it. It's like, many of y'all are parents, I'm sure. It's like when you have your 2 kids get in a fight, and one kid says, he hit me, and then he says, no, he hit me first. You've got to actually figure out which kid is in the right and wrong, and then settle that once and for all, and say all's fair and square after this, and everything goes away, and everyone's going to be even Stevens. You have to do that, otherwise there's just going to be endless animosity and tension between the 2 kids that you have. That's basically what you do in diplomacy and foreign policy. We didn't do that. We just said, shut the hell up, kids, both of y'all are wrong, you're both going to get your asses beat, and that's going to be the end of the story. And everyone, of course, got pissed off over that, and went back to beating each other's asses because there was really no good resolution to this. So now it's time for us to move on. Now that we've gotten the explanation of everything that's been going on down here, now it's time for us to actually move on into Bangkok, because we have to get to all of the major statements that the Thai government has now made while this has been going on. Most importantly, the Thai Prime Minister has stated the Thai Prime Minister is not the lady anymore. I forgot her name, but it's now Anutin Charnvirakul, who is now the new Prime Minister, which you can see right here. We actually had him in yesterday's thumbnail. He announced in a televised address that the government has authorized full-scale military operations in response to escalating border clashes with Cambodia. We then heard today that they have already torpedoed U.S. relations or any U.S. attempt at involvement, as the Prime Minister also stated today that he has closed all negotiating channels with Cambodia, saying he no longer considers Trump or Anwar's involvement, basically telling them to get lost and shut the hell up. He insists the dispute is strictly between Thailand and its adversary, dismisses concerns over U.S. tariffs, which was supposed to be the reprisal, and declares the joint declaration of the peace treaty completely void.
Wow, that's a hell of a move right there. I wonder, and once again, not trying to get political, folks, so don't take it this way, but I wonder if countries are starting to see the mess that's happening between the United States, Russia, and Ukraine, and how it's turned into a complete a clown show, honestly, with the way it's going. I wonder if countries like Thailand are seeing that, and their way to deal with it is simply to say from the very square one position, we don't want you involved at all. We don't even want America even close to the situation.
And also, he basically said at the end he doesn't even care if the U.S. puts tariffs on Thailand. He said he's basically saying U.S. involvement is so pointless, stupid, idiotic, and doesn't even produce any sort of a fruitful conclusion that they don't even care if U.S. relations cease to exist from this point onwards. They're going to do what they want to do, and the United States can either disagree with that or shut the hell up and get on with life, one or the other. So that's basically what the Prime Minister of Thailand has said today. Basically what he has said in short, is that they were strong-armed into the getting a peace treaty about Cambodia prior, generally so someone could try and line themselves up for a Nobel, and this time they're not going to be another pawn for a possible Nobel nomination, so they've already told the U.S. to get lost, and they're just going to keep fighting the war until they're satisfied. Additionally, we also heard that the Prime Minister then added on today that he does not even remember a peace agreement with Cambodia brokered by the president in October.
He's got that diplomatic amnesia. He doesn't even remember the peace treaty at all. Honestly, though, is he saying that because it's a new guy? Because before it was the lady who was the prime minister. Now it's this guy who's here when the war's kicked back off. So is he saying that as like a jab, or is he saying, wait a minute, is that him right there?
Yeah, that's him right there signing the peace treaty. Like, he actually became...
Oh, okay. Well, dang, he couldn't have forgotten then. He was literally there. That's crazy. So, yeah, he must be saying that as like a jab or something. He's pissed off.
Oh, he's saying that as a jab. He's pretty much saying he doesn't remember it because it was so pointless it wasn't even worth remembering. That's what he's saying here. But when asked of whether the declaration still applies amid the current escalation, the Prime Minister simply replied, "No, I don't remember it." So it appears that he not only is telling the United States to get lost, he doesn't care if they apply tariffs, he doesn't care if they want to be involved, he doesn't care if the U.S. wants to use Thailand and Cambodia as another pawn for another Nobel nomination. He has stated to get the hell lost, and he doesn't even remember the peace treaty because it was that useless. So that is all of the Thai government statements today. So, you know, a lot of people like to say that the foreign policy, it looks confused and it looks complicated and there's a million different hurdles being jumped because it actually produces results. This is the result, by the way. At the end of it all, we achieve the quote-unquote peace. We actually get a ratified peace treaty. And we didn't resolve any issues, so everyone still wants to kill each other. They go back to killing each other. And not only that, we've completely lost an ally in the region that we had for decades now, because we have practically shit in their bed, and now they're angry about it. So now Thailand's telling us to get lost, and probably will also be, wiping their hands clean of any possible U.S. relations or cooperation in the future, which was actually quite significant. The U.S. has responded, at least the Secretary of State has responded, by saying the United States is concerned by ongoing fighting and casualties along the Cambodia-Thailand border. Both sides should immediately cease hostilities, once again not addressing the underlying issue, protect civilians, once again not addressing the underlying issue, and return to the de-escalatory measures outlined in the Kuala Lumpur Peace Accords, which also did not address the underlying issues that are leading to the war. So the U.S.
Listen, guys, stop it, guys. Y'all gotta stop fighting. Y'all are fighting all the time. Also, notice the distancing here. Do you see the strategy they're trying to do here? They're trying to distance themselves from this whole situation by pretending like, oh, look, it's the Kuala Lumpur Peace Accords. You know, those peace accords that the United States had nothing to do with, apparently. Those have failed. That was a pitiful. I bet you before long they'll be saying, that was a terrible peace treaty. Whoever came up with that was awful. They'll probably be like blaming it on somebody else where it's over with.
Someone's going to have to get the blame for this. It's probably going to be, knowing how it works, it'll probably be the last administration for some like hurdles and jumps reason. It'll be that sort of an explanation or something, or it'll be the boogeymen, whoever they are. But beyond that, this whole thing is completely collapsed. In short, the Thai are telling us to get lost, and also I want to explain this for a lot of people because some people don't know how significant Thai-U.S. relations were or are. In Vietnam, Thailand actually allowed us to base a lot of our B-52s and also other Air Force aircraft in their country to go and bomb Vietnam. Throughout the decades, we've had huge military relations, strategic relations with Thailand. The U.S. Marines have a jungle training course that is held in Thailand. That's where we train all of our Marines on jungle warfare, is generally inside of Thailand. It's an incredibly important ally within Southeast Asia, and we have pissed them off through the showboating and dog and pony show trick that we did earlier in the year in forcing them into a ceasefire that was pointless and stupid and didn't address anything, that they're so pissed off, they're already telling us at the head before we could even say anything that they don't want any involvement by the United States. They don't even remember the peace treaty because it was so pointless, and we might as well get lost, and they don't even care if the U.S. torpedoes its relationship with Thailand because it means that little to them at this point because of what the U.S. has already forced them to do earlier in the year. So, not wanting to, hit the nail on the head on this thing, but we sit here and say we're the kings of peace. We force a peace treaty onto two countries, also disrespect one of our allies, which is Thailand, in the process. We piss them off, say that the peace is achieved and there will never be a war in Southeast Asia again. About 4 months later, another war breaks out, this time bigger than the last one. The entire peace treaty was meaningless, and not only that, we're losing an ally at this point in Thailand. So it's a little bit obvious at this point that the foreign policy approach and strategy is going to end up being a failure everywhere, because this is the approach that we've taken in every region of the world at this point and every quote-unquote peace that we've ended up achieving, and it already is having incredibly bad results in Southeast Asia. So it's going to have pretty bad results everywhere else that this has been conducted so far as well, including Ukraine, which is still being tried on at the moment. But beginning us on into the rest of the news that we have in Southeast Asia really quickly, because there are some other points that we do have to get to here. We did hear that South Korea's air defense identification zone had several violations today by about, from what we understand, 2 Chinese aircraft and 7 Russian aircraft, which entered the ADIZ. Apparently, the ADIZ was penetrated within the southern and eastern regions of the country's airspace, which would be indicative of carrier strike group actions by the Liaoning, which is in the East China Sea, considering that it's to the south of South Korea, and also Russian aircraft flying out of Vladivostok. We would understand the Russian aircraft are most likely longer range, or it was a longer range air operation, as the distance from the air bases at Vladivostok to the coast of South Korea would be about 400 miles, meaning that if a Su-27 or some other form of an airframe took off from Vladivostok and flew out to this range, its loiter time would be about 5 to 10 minutes before it had to turn around and start flying back, so that way it wouldn't run out of fuel. So it does appear that South Korea actually dealt with some pretty interesting ADIZ issues today, which actually led to the Republic of Korea's Air Force being put into a state of high alert to see if something was going to come out of this. Nothing came out of it, but still this is one of the first times recently that we've heard of Russian and Chinese aircraft entering the South Korean ADIZ, and for that matter, the Air Force of South Korea going into a state of high alert as a result of the actions. Outside of that, Japan was also hit with a 7.1 earthquake today, actually yesterday, within the area of Hokkaido and the mainland island of Japan, which is called Honshu, not Sendai. Sendai is a major city in the north of Honshu Island, but it is not Honshu Island. Still, this earthquake did affect a larger area of the northern part of the country, and the Japanese self-defense forces were already deploying to Aomori to prepare for search rescue and also recovery efforts within the area after the tsunami hit. Additionally, we've also heard that the Liaoning Carrier Strike Group of the People's Liberation Army Navy is currently conducting air operations in the East China Sea, which would generally be the reason why those Chinese aircraft were probably seen to the southern area of the ADIZ of South Korea. Additionally, we've also now started to hear that the Japanese government is becoming incredibly frustrated with the United States of America due to its passive statements regarding the overtly aggressive actions against Japan over the last few weeks by China, reportedly pressing the current administration to more forcefully defend Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi after her warning that Chinese attack on Taiwan would warrant a military response from Japan, which has set off furious reactions and death threats from the Chinese government. So it does appear that the Japanese are also getting incredibly frustrated with the United States. Not only have we lost our diplomatic relations pretty much today with Thailand, and they've almost automatically severed that on their own before we could attempt to threaten that, the Japanese are apparently getting incredibly aggravated behind the scenes as well about the complete lack of a U.S. response, and not only that, the U.S. encouragement for the Japanese to just back off and allow the Chinese to aggress against them endlessly without conducting any form of a response. So that's the situation currently as it stands across the whole of East Asia. It's now time for us to start moving on into the other major news topics that we have of the night, which are in the Middle East, the hunt for Captain Crack Sparrow, and also the entirety of Europe, which we haven't been able to cover yet. But before we get into all of that, I do want to make sure to move on into a little bit of a halftime segment, so that way folks can go to the restroom, get some snacks, and also so that way we can get to talk to a couple of y'all a little bit early. We're going to be getting 3 questions from the chat, and then moving on into the rest of our news. So Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so jumping into our first 3 super chat questions, our first one here goes to Local Advocate 345, who put in an extremely generous combined $150 support. And thank you very much, Local Advocate, for advocating for our channel. And we do appreciate that support very much. And it's that support that keeps us on the air for over 3 or 4 years. I can't even keep track of it anymore. It's all blurring together. But they said thank you for all you do. And with what I perceive to be inaction from the United States, they say they are joining the International Legion for the defense of Ukraine.
Dang, that's a pretty high goal right there. I hope that you were able to go and join the International Legion, because I'm always hearing that they're accepting volunteers. But I'm also hearing, by the way, just to let you know this, because this is a bit of a structural thing that Ukraine is doing right now. Ukraine is actually dissolving the International Legion. They're still taking international volunteers, but from what I understood, from what I've heard previously, I believe that the International Legion is actually going to be divvied up, and its different national contingents are now going to become attachments to different brigades inside the Ukrainian army. So I think that the International Legion funnel system generally works to get into the Ukrainian army, but you're not going to technically be a part of the International Legion, at least for long, because they're probably going to put you into another brigade. But still, I wish you the best of luck with that, and I do have to say a massive thanks to you so much for that unbelievably humongous support, because you help us to be able to cover the news here on this channel each and every day, so that way we can tell people about what's going on over there, what's going on in foreign policy and world events, so that way folks like you can make decisions that you think is right for greater American and Western interests as a whole. And I gotta say a humongous thanks to you so much once again, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't have been able to be on air this long. And of course, I wish you the best of luck, and I hope that you do stay safe over there once you join and get on over to Ukraine. But a humongous thanks to you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that incredibly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And we also have a combined $150 support also from BC Skyman, a channel legend, by the way. And he puts in 3 super stickers. And he has the YouTube creature turn into a transformer. He's got the YouTube creature oohing and ahhing over the fireworks right there. And he's got another YouTube creature sitting there with the sparklers on the ground, very happy looking, saying, "You're amazing." But thank you very much, BC, for that support. Extremely generous once again. And it's good to see you. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta thank you massively for the support, BC Skyman. That is humongous support, and we thank you so much for the humongous, massive support that you threw in. You don't throw in comments with your super chats, but we always see you saying incredibly kind things in the chat, and we thank you greatly, BC Skyman, not only for being a pillar of the Lee Spring Army, but also massively supporting this channel and helping us to keep this thing running year after year. If it wasn't for the amazing folks in the Lee Spring Army who went out of their way in the small numbers that they do to support this channel, we would have never been able to make the channel possible for the millions of people who watch it every single month. I've got to give you a humongous thanks, BC Skyman, because you are one of the folks, as always, who is helping this channel to keep on running. Nobody has to, but yet you do. And it makes the entire show possible for not only ourselves, but for everyone who's watching every single night, which right now, it's actually 10.3 thousand people, apparently, which is quite a large amount of people. And you are helping to make that news channel possible for 10,300 people right now on air. So a humongous thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that wildly well on top of that. And with that, we're going to be moving on to the last question of this segment, and then on through the rest of the news that we have from around the world.
All right, so our last one is going to go to none other than Bobby, LC39A, by the way, another channel legend, just like BC Skyman, and a huge shout out to you, Bobby, for that massive $100 support as well, and once again, coming through and bankrolling the channel day in and day out. And Bobby said, your short war videos are the dessert before the main meal. Now, that's interesting, Bobby. You mentioned that, by the way. The short war videos are usually, these days, similar to the title of the stream, actually, because usually the big news comes out, actually, in the recent weeks, it comes out during the midday, and then we expand upon it and also add some other news as well during the live stream. But these days, it seems like we're hitting the big topics in the short war videos, actually. So, kind of interesting with that. But, Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say humongous thanks to you for the support, Bobby, or LC39A as I know you, but a huge thanks to you so much. And I gotta say, it really is something. It kind of is like the dessert before the main course these days. And I gotta say, I love to know that people absolutely enjoy our short war videos. We always know, and it's nothing new to us, I'll be honest with y'all, that a lot of y'all do not have time to be able to watch a 3.5 hour or a 4 hour long show. And so I love to know that we're able to make something a lot more smaller and condensed that gets out most of those major developments of the day in a more followable sort of a pace or an amount of time. And it's a wonderful thing to know that people really do enjoy that little bit of a snippet or a lens into what's going on today before we get on into the massive overly detailed breakdown of everything that's happening around the world today, or at least as much as we can cover, and how it's going to impact the United States and the Western world, or what's going to be coming out of it in the future. I got to thank you massively for not only throwing in the first super chat of the night, if I'm not mistaken, the LC39A, but also for massively supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running as well. Folks like you are pretty much the grease that keeps the gears turning for the channel through your support. And I've got to thank every single person massively who supports this channel, whether it's $1 or several $100s, because each and every one of y'all are doing your part to help the Lee Spring Army to keep rolling every day. And nobody has to do it. And that's the amazing thing about it, is that nobody has to support the channel, and yet many people do. So a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, folks, it's time for us to start moving on into all of the major news that we have from around the rest of the world. And I mean, it's a lot. Like, it's a load. So we're going to start getting into this, and once again go through it in kind of like the sewing machine speed and efficiency that we've done the first hour in. So moving us on in the Middle East, we are immediately going to be moving on down into Yemen, because we've actually heard some significant and wild developments today that are starting to change the face of the entirety of what's going on inside of Yemen generally. So I have to show you all this. This is the Yemeni civil war as it exists right now. And one thing that's probably very interesting to a lot of folks is that y'all actually notice that the little faction in orange has actually gained a good amount of ground going north. And this is something that is starting to cause some issues. So now it's time for me to break down the overly complicated situation that exists here like it did in Syria. So the forces in red are the legitimate Yemeni government. They are supported by Saudi Arabia and generally supported by most of the international world. Then the groups in orange and yellow are actually backed both by the United Arab Emirates, which is the UAE, which many people would know Dubai and Abu Dhabi as being their major cities. The one in yellow is the Southern Transitional Council, and the other one in orange is the Hadrami Elite Forces. Both of them are backed, funded, and generally supported by the United Arab Emirates as their nation-building project within the area. The United Arab Emirates actually takes a lot of its money and doesn't put it into skyscrapers or attempted tourist traps inside their country. They actually put a lot of their money into trying to curb and develop the region into something that they generally would like to see. Funnily enough, the major backer and supporter of the RSF, which is currently still conducting the massacre and genocide within Al-Fashur, which has killed about, at this point, 85,000 people in about a week and a half, is actually supported and funded almost entirely by the United Arab Emirates, if y'all would believe that. And so these two forces are actually backed by the UAE. The one in red is backed by Saudi Arabia, the one in green is backed by Iran, and then the one in blue, which I actually don't know who in the world backs that one, is apparently the Republic of Yemen. I don't understand why it's different, though, because this is the one in red is the Republic of Yemen. I'm going to have to look into that one and understand that one a little bit more. But nevertheless, the Republic of Yemen, the one in red, not the one in blue, is actually being invaded now by the pro-UAE-backed forces, which is breaking the decades-old alliance. It's been literally 11 years that these three factions have been allied together in their fight against the Houthis, and they're now advancing through the desert and the populated areas that the Republic of Yemen is controlling and taking ground against them, pretty much in a betrayal. This is something that is considerably concerning to the Saudis at this moment, because the Saudis are wanting to see that the Republic of Yemen's official government that existed before the civil war wins. And they're pretty much just wanting to exist the former order of things that existed within the area. The UAE is not only wanting to destroy the Houthis, they're also wanting to destroy the Saudi-backed Yemeni government as well, and bring forward a UAE-aligned sort of a government within the country. And then, of course, you have the Houthis, which are funded by Iran. They just want to operate a terrorist state, basically, and that's basically the run of the land. So, if y'all have ever thought that the Middle East, because some people think this in America, that the Middle East is some sort of a united Islamic front against the West, I think this is the best example that you can have, that every single Middle Eastern country kind of hates each other and is kind of working to the other's detriment. Iran's working against Saudi Arabia and the UAE. The UAE is working against Saudi Arabia and Iran. And Saudi Arabia is working against Iran and the UAE. So a fairly complicated sort of a web work that's going on within this country. But this is causing enough of a serious concern that the Saudis are now pouring into the Yemeni government-controlled areas and are possibly going to be getting involved in direct armed intervention against not only the UAE-backed factions within the country, but also the Houthis as well, to see that through direct elbow grease, they'll see that their side comes to victory in the civil war finally, or at least that's going to be the intended goal. So that's what's going on in Yemen at the moment. Meanwhile, inside of the Islamic Republic of Iran, we actually heard that another nuclear scientist was killed today, apparently in a group stabbing. I'm not.
Excuse me?
Yeah, a group stabbing.
A group stabbing.
So,
I'm not sure if I've ever heard of that before.
Senior military advisor General Jabari stated that an Iranian nuclear scientist named Fakhrizadeh was eliminated by collaborators trained abroad in 3 separate 21-day courses run by Israeli operatives. They gave about each of the recruits 25,000 euros and then told them to all go and just stab Fakhrizadeh to death. So he's dead now.
That sounds like a scam. Like, it sounds like one of those 21-day courses they sell you as a scam or something like that. They're like, sign up for my course. It's like $199 or something like that. It's a 21-day course. This is a bad course. I mean, that's bad.
You know what's better than Burger King? Hustlers. That's like.
I tell you what, jeez.
We're taking all of Iran's nuclear guys and we're bringing them to Israel and we're going to be in a 21-day course on stabbing their friends, literally. They're going to go back to Iran, they're going to stab this guy to death. And that's what they did. They literally just killed one of Iran's top nuclear scientists in a group stabbing. So, that's the first time I ever heard of that. That wasn't on the bingo card for this year, but there you go. Spy work's got never been easier these days. You can just give some guys 25,000 euros, and they'll just go and conduct a Caesar on someone, turn the guy into a literal Caesar salad for 25,000 euros each. Honestly, that's a discount, really. But anyways, moving on from that, now the Islamic Republic of Iran, while they're running out of water and good air, they're also getting their nuclear scientists stabbed to death. So, they said London was dangerous. Apparently, it's like Tehran is worse. But anyways, moving on from that, and all jokes aside, it's time for us to move on down into the Israeli area. As while the Turkish Republic and the Jelani Syrian interim government are still moving against the Syrian Democratic Forces in the north, which unfortunately we haven't really been able to get a lot of news or developments on right now, we are actually seeing that the Israelis have moved in the south of Syria and are actually apparently greasing Jelani's security forces at will. There was a fairly tense standoff that happened today on film where the SIG forces here on the left side of the road were faced down by the IDF here on the right side of the road. Prior to this, about 12 hours before this, another convoy came under direct fire from the Israelis, and apparently several SIG intelligence and security forces men were actually killed in the firefight.
Why the siren?
I don't know. I don't know.
Safety
They're
first.
American.
It's just so stupid. It's like you're basically in a war zone. You're gonna turn on lights and sirens like you're worried about, public safety. It's like they're literally in a war.
Yeah, I don't get it. For your safety, stay indoors. It's a war out here. It's like, what are they saying? Like, what's the point of the sirens? Everyone already knows it's an ongoing war. Also, I like how they put a whole bunch of guys in the back of these trucks, like it literally is like Abba Hassan and his 40 Thieves from like Popeye. It's something. I'll say that.
just truck fulls of combatants going to war. I guess it is interesting though. It's like there's no real personnel carriers that have police sirens and lights. It's almost like it's everyday life, like the way they treat it. It's not being treated like war. It's being treated like just a skirmish.
Is that the flag of the Taliban?
That
I mean, it
maybe.
looks a lot like it. Like, if I go pull up, let me go pull up the flag of the Taliban here really quickly, because that looks just like it, folks. It's the same. I mean, it literally is the same flag. Look at that. That's the flag of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, which is the Taliban. And those flags look to have the same inscription in black font on them. So it looks like that's the flag of the Taliban.
Huh, that's interesting. That might explain why they're behaving this way.
Maybe. But off they go, like with their Taliban flags all over. You better lock up your doors today, because Al-Jilani is on his way, going hiding.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine how tired these guys are by the time they get to the front lines? They're standing up. They can't even sit down. There's too many guys in the back of the pickup bed. They can't even sit down before they get there. Like, at least in like an armored personnel carrier, you're able to sit like on the edge of your seat, kind of, and it's obviously not comfortable, but you're able to sit down. These guys got to stand the whole way.
You know, man, I never thought of it like that. And also, man, you know, now that you say it like that, these are honestly clown cars the way they're packing them, you know?
Yeah, and also look at how it's sagging. I mean, these guys must weigh a ton.
Bro, a metric ton. A metric ton of SIG guys. Oh, like, that is a new way to measure troops. We'll call it a metric ton of SIG troops. But also, we saw that the Israelis are back to bombing southern Lebanon, south of the Lithuania, to try and wipe out the Hezbollah forces in the area. And also, the icing on the cake is that inside of Jerusalem, the Israeli government held their session yesterday, and Benjamin Netanyahu, who's the prime minister of the country currently, I cannot show the clip here, unfortunately, fairly litigious, you know, but Netanyahu stated, "I speak with Putin on a regular basis, and this relationship serves our vital interests."
I don't like that.
I don't like that either. You know, folks, I gotta say, not really a big fan of the Russians or anyone who considers them to be a friendly or allied nation, and the fact that Netanyahu would say that Russia is a friendly nation to the state of Israel is something that I'm not a fan of at all. To be entirely honest with y'all, I'm such a very little fan of that my honest assessment would be is that the United States ought to threaten to withdraw all support to the state of Israel unless if they retract that statement and treat the Russians as an adversarial power. That would be.
But we're not even treating them as an adversarial power, though. The United States is treating Russia like they're like misunderstood or something. So actually, this might make the U.S. support Israel more. Actually,
maybe.
I got you on that one.
Yeah, I mean,
checkmate on
that's
that.
actually true. But going off of what would make sense, the Russians are an enemy of the United States. And I would have to say that anyone who considers themselves to be friendly or allied to an enemy of the United States is also, by extension, an enemy of the United States as well, guilt by association. I do not like the idea of a country that's supposed to be our quote-unquote greatest ally also saying that one of their greatest allies is our enemy. That's not a position that I think that we should be in. And also, by the way, if you're doubting me on this, you can click on the link for our map in the description below, go to Jerusalem and click on this marker, and he actually says that in Hebrew in this parliamentary session. So it's not like I'm making this up. He's literally said it on film. It's a literal video audio taped recording of him saying it. That's not something I agree with at all. And it's not within America's interest to support a country, in my honest opinion, that also views the Russians as a friendly or allied state. Moving on from that, so what I'm saying, folks, is that either Israel can reevaluate their position on that, or, in my opinion, it might be time for the U.S. to part ways with the Israelis, one way or the other. But moving on out of that region of the Middle East, it's now time for us to move on over to the Americas for the hunt for Captain Crack Sparrow, because you all know we have to get to the hunt for Captain Crack Sparrow. It's a very small segment tonight, though, folks. I'm not going to make it an incredibly big one because there really wasn't a lot that went on. Some FA-18 Super Hornets of the USS Gerald R. Ford of Fighter Squadron 213 or VFA 213 were actually conducting some incredibly provocative flights near to the city of Maracaibo, or Maracaibo, I believe it's pronounced, in the area of northwestern Venezuela. We also saw additionally that there is some electronic warfare interference going on along their border, and we've also heard that apparently due to the ongoing situation, the United States of America has now activated the Western Hemisphere Command and established the Army's first four-star operational theater commander based on the continental United States, which is the first in history. Well, not the first in history, but the first since the Civil War, if you want to call it like that. The new command's mission includes homeland defense and to support civil authorities. I don't know why the military is supporting civil authorities. That's a little interesting, but it is apparently going to be primarily against Venezuela and against the cartels, which, according to the National Defense Strategy, is now public enemy number one. In the entire world, the cartels are more important than China and Russia somehow. But moving on from that, that's basically all of the news that we have from the hunt for Captain Crack Sparrow today. Not really a lot happening down here, and we're also now hearing word that the U.S. government is now confused again as to whether or not they're going to bomb them. So, we might not bomb them, and I'll be honest with y'all, folks, I'm starting to lean towards this whole thing is a crock of crap, and we're probably never going to bomb Venezuela because the U.S. government can't get their head on straight as to what they even want to do from day to day with this whole matter. So I have a feeling they're probably just going to lean to the side of doing nothing, and we just wasted billions of dollars moving everyone into this area for nothing to happen for 4 months, probably. You know, I might be wrong, but at this point, that's what I'm starting to lean towards, because we have so much stuff in the area, and we've done quite literally next to nothing, that we're probably going to end up doing nothing in the eventual long run on this whole scenario. So, with that, it's finally time for us to move on into the major news that we have out of Europe. And it's time for us to actually get on into the major diplomatic developments that have been happening recently. Many of y'all will know that there was the famed meeting that was going to happen in London on Monday that President Emmanuel Macron announced that was going to be held between the Prime Minister of the UK, the President of France, the Chancellor of Germany, and the President of Ukraine. That meeting was had and concluded with a picture coming out of the Prime Minister of the UK hugging Zelensky. Zelensky sitting there going, "This guy looks like he's from Whoville on God. This kind of odd, really." But outside of that,
looking like he got caught. Like that look on his face is a little bit like kind of like fear or something. It's kind of not exactly what you call a comforting look.
Not really. I mean, he's like, "This guy scares me. Please help." Like, man, like he makes me.
He just remembered that post he made. He just remembers that post he made on the internet criticizing someone. He was like, I hope they don't jump out and arrest me."
Man, he sat there and said, "Oh shit, I made some really edgy comments on Twitter. I might get put in prison here." But beyond that, moving on from that statement, moving on from that whole meeting, Zelensky apparently was reinvigorated on his resolve on the current situation due to the meeting, as he has now started to make some incredibly strong statements. One, the Americans will continue to supply weapons to Ukraine because they're making money and it fits their current policy. So basically saying if the U.S. is profiting off of it, they don't really care that much. And that was the statement by Zelensky. Then he doubled down, and then he stated this: the U.S. peace plan has been reduced from 28 to 20 points. The Americans want to find compromises, but when it comes to territories, there are none. This is one of the first times that he's made a absolute statement that they will not compromise on something. And this is the first time ever, and it literally came just hours after the meeting in London. So it appears that whatever has been said to him in London, it's apparently reinvigorated him to know that Europe will back him if the U.S. doesn't, and he can continue to take the strong position that he needs to protect the national interests of the state of Ukraine. Additionally, Zelensky did also state that the Ukrainian armed forces do not have the possibility or military capacity to retake Crimea, which is something that we've known forever on the channel. We've been saying that for a while. But he does say that they have, if they did get sufficient support, it might be possible, but that still would be a pretty far away reality. And the honest truth is that he's correct. We also were able to hear that from the Ukrainian delegation at the United Nations today, an absolute baller statement came out. One that I just can't really wrap my head around because it was so good. The Ukrainian permanent representative to the UN, Sergei Kislitsia, yeah, there we go. Sergei Kislitsia stated that the Russians will get nothing but the whole from a bagel, not Ukraine.
Oh man, that's honestly fantastic though, for real. Tell them how it is, Sergey.
Can we play the clip? Is there going to be an issue if we play that clip?
We'll see. Sadly, we can't. We can't.
Ah, that's unfortunate. It was one hell of a statement. He said it in Ukrainian though. But he also stated that our land and sovereignty are not for sale. This isn't a Christmas market or some shady bazaar. So he went all in. So you'll get the whole from a bagel. Not Ukraine is now the statement of the current Ukrainian foreign policy on the war, which I'm 100% behind. A whole of a bagel, that's not a whole lot. pun intended there. It's literally
How
nothing.
do you get the whole? How do you get the whole from a bagel? Because doesn't the factory like cut that out before they give it to you? So like, unless you're going to the factory, like, I mean, I'm not trying to look too deep into Sergey's statement here, but I think you have to go to the factory to get the whole from the bagel.
But that's what it means. You'll literally get nothing because the whole of it from a bagel is nothing because it's already gone. So he's literally saying you'll get nothing before you get anything in Ukraine.
Or he might, or Putin might go to the factory. There's no telling.
Man, Putin's gonna go, have you ever heard of rinky-dink the wise? And the guy on the assembly line, he's gonna be like, oh God, not this guy. Like, look, man, we throw them away. We can't give you one. But let me tell you, back in 916, 1,000 years ago, the bagel holes, they were promised to us and our people. But anyways, I gotta say, the Ukrainian foreign policy statements are on point. So now I got to bring y'all to the United States because there was a lot of additional news that came about this matter today in the United States. One, yesterday, the United States has now confirmed in their ever-ending graciousness and everything else that they'll only give Ukraine $800 million over the next 2 years. That's $400 million a year. In military terms, that's about a Happy Meal or maybe just the chicken nuggets every year, and that's about it.
Well, honestly, it's not as bad as it seems, though, because some people are saying, oh, and honestly, like, if I was president, I wouldn't personally do this, but $800 million, that's nothing. Like, when it comes to supporting Ukraine, it's basically peanuts, which is basically almost zero, in my opinion. So what the problem is, though, is this is only counting the free aid that the U.S. is giving to Ukraine. It's not counting all the weapon sales that we're making to Europe, that Europe is then donating to the Ukrainians and making sure that they can actually fight the war. So that's the whole scheme here. The U.S. is trying to make this whole political roundabout to say that we're not funding the Ukraine war. We're simply selling the weapons to Europe, and then they give them to Ukraine. So Ukraine's not being abandoned by the United States, but they're also not being generous with Ukraine either.
I would have to say that's true. That is true. But also at the same time, what I want to say about this is that while Europe can buy weapons from the United States and then give them to Ukraine, that might not last for forever. And secondly, we might stop that sort of a program. And secondly, another thing is that the United States should be providing our own armed support to the state of Ukraine instead of the Europeans having to buy everything and then give it to Ukraine. Because this is something that we've gone over a lot before, folks, on the channel, is that we're actually making a significant investment in Ukraine that is returning dividends already when we give them free weaponry. When we give them a tank, just got to make this clear, because some people go, oh, we're throwing away money. When you look at an M1A2 Abrams like this one right here, there's no way to turn this into farming machinery down the road. It's wasted money, basically. It's $5 million of wasted cash. So when this thing gets to an older time in its service life where it's going to be retired by the United States, a whole bunch of other countries are out there on the chopping block to get these things for free. The tank is technically $5 million, but in reality, it's worthless. Nobody will ever be able to use this for anything. So, with that in mind, why the hell would we not give these to Ukraine? Why wouldn't we? I mean, it would be a great deal. If we're going to get rid of these things anyway and retire them, because there's really no other way to repurpose them to make any sort of money off of, why wouldn't we give them to Ukraine for free? That's what we've been doing for 3 years, well, really for 2.5 years before the current administration took charge, is that we would just give away our old retiring stuff that we're about to get rid of to Ukraine. It had a technical monetary value, but in reality, it's practically worthless, like all military equipment is. So it's like, why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we continue to have congressional drawdowns? Why is the Congress not working on a congressional drawdown right now? It's not like the equipment's brand new. And I also have to put this into perspective. When it came to the Israelis, we literally fired off 70% of all of the THAAD rockets we had in the world to protect the Israelis. Never heard anyone in the U.S. government bitch once that we were running out of THAAD batteries and that could jeopardize our defensive position in the entirety of the world. And we did that to protect a country, mind you, that's now saying that they're friendly with the Russians. So basically a waste at this point. But then when it comes to Ukraine, we can't even give them old beat up beater equipment like we've been giving them for years that they could give a second wind because it technically is monetary. It has a value attached to it. Like, where in the world are we getting that money from? Nobody in the world, folks, buys our crap when it's that old. Poland's getting 250 Strikers from us, Striker APCs, that is, for $250. We're selling them to Poland for $1 a piece. That's how worthless
No, no.
this
Remember,
stuff is.
it's $1 for all of them. It's $1 for 250 of those APCs.
Oh, I thought it was $1 a pop.
No, I think it's $1 for the whole kit and caboodle.
Let me check that. I want to double check that just so that we were correct on it. Oh yeah, so it is 250 strikers for $1. So 250 strikers, each one of these vehicles, mind you, their technical value is about $750,000. They got 250 of them for $1. The $1.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? And also, I mean, let's be honest here. It's all political. If the current leadership were to give Ukraine weapons like the prior administration was doing, then the people could say, wait a minute, aren't you funding Ukraine and giving away our taxpayer dollars? Because, they assign the value to the old equipment. So technically, when they give over like a whole bunch of these old Abrams that really can't be reused or salvaged, they're going to consider that a monetary gain for Ukraine. And then they're going to be saying, look, this guy's giving all this money to Ukraine. It's just he's going back on his promise. That's what they're going to say. And then it turns into a huge political rigmarole at that point. You got to try to explain the whole thing. And trying to explain something like that, which is semi-complex to like people that really don't have the bandwidth for it, that's a lose-lose situation in politics. It's better just not to get into it. And that's what they're doing. They're taking the easy way out instead of helping out Ukraine and supporting our allies.
But also, here's the truth of it, though. They could just lie like they do on everything else. They could, like, the economy's doing worse. They could just say it's doing better. You could give weapons to Ukraine and then say that trying to stop the war was some sort of a liberal scam or something like that, and then just say, I'm just giving weapons to them anyways, because they basically do whatever they want in every other situation. Why wouldn't they do what they want in this one?
Yeah, I mean they could. It's just it's a whole thing. And also I can't get too deep into it because it's into politics, but
Yeah.
it's just a whole thing. And also there seems to be like a personal inclination not to want to support Ukraine. Me personally, if you ask me, I would say it seems to me like there's some type of personal vendetta going on between the United States and Ukraine, because there is some prior things that happened in the past, way back, about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, that would sort of lead to a vendetta between those two individuals there. I think there might be some bad blood that existed way before now. This could be a get back.
It could possibly be. Also, by the way, Matthew, there were some things that I didn't retweet on Twitter. I just want to cover this on air with you because I don't know, I didn't get to cover this with you before the show. But there were some things that we retweeted over the course of the day where someone said Zelensky was open to having an election. I couldn't find any proof for that claim. Like, I don't have that on our news tonight. So I just want to make that clear because there was some stuff circling around today, folks, that Zelensky, one, would agree to an energy ceasefire, and two, Zelensky is also opening to have an elections within the next 60 days. And I looked around, and beyond the original poster that we retweeted, I actually really couldn't find a lot of corroboration of those claims. So I just want to...
So based on what I read, it sounds like Zelensky made that statement. I'll say allegedly because I don't have the tweet in front of me right now. But Zelensky made that statement in response to the U.S. president making some offhanded comment about how Ukraine's really barely even a democracy anymore because they're not holding elections. So Zelensky allegedly said that he's willing to hold elections anytime, and that if that's a contingency for getting more aid or something like that, then he's willing to hold an election within 2 or 3 months or something like that. So he's willing to hold elections. I will say this, though, kind of interesting with that, because they've been saying before that they couldn't hold elections because of the war, but now they're saying that they can hold an election in about 2 to 3 months, at least allegedly, but they'll have to change the law in Ukraine to allow it, because as it stands right now, technically, elections are not permissible under the Ukrainian laws for right now, so they got to amend it to make that even possible. So theoretically, it's possible that the Ukrainians might not even approve legislatively to change the law, and they might not still be able to hold it, even if Zelensky wants to.
Yeah, that's true. But also, another thing is, I saw some people add this in, and this is something that I don't believe was included by the original poster, but some people are actually saying he stated that with a caveat that the U.S. would have to provide security guarantees in ratified form, in some sort of a legally binding treaty, for them to hold an election. So it seems like it was a gotcha, more so than anything. Like, I'll do that if you actually do something that you keep beating on the bush around. But moving on from that, just wanted to...
And also... And also, it's like if we're going to make statements here in the United States that Ukraine's barely even a democracy anymore, then why don't we say it about Russia too? It's like Russia's definitely not a democracy. It's like it's clear as a bell they're not. Go speak out in Russia about something and find out what happens to you. You get put in the gulag or worse really quickly. Some people fall out of windows if you say the wrong thing in Russia. I don't see that happening in Ukraine. So it's like, who's the democracy? And how come we won't comment on Russia being evil on that front?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a reason we all know. But anyways, we were able to hear that apparently Zelensky has informed his European allies, we believe in the London meeting, that he's facing intense urging to promptly resolve the American proposal for peace, advanced by Witkoff and Kushner. Trump seeks a conclusive agreement by Christmas at this point. So while he's saying publicly that there's no deadline, apparently the deadline is peace by Christmas. And boy, folks, being a history major, I've heard this war will be over by Christmas about 9,000 times, and it usually ends up with the most catastrophic results whenever anyone says that there will be a peace by Christmas. Worst thing to ever be said, like no joke, like literally doomsday sort of statement. Thousands will die just because that was said. That's just how history works. Additionally, we also heard that the President of the United States has made some additional comments today stating that European leaders are weak and their nations are decaying, and says that there was an understanding not to include Ukraine in NATO long before Putin, and the President also stated that Putin is a great salesman, one of the best, one of the greatest ever seen. I gotta say, some interesting statements. We'll just leave it at that. I'll let y'all say what you want. But moving on from that, we do have a lot of people talking about Zelensky stating that he will not give up an inch of land, and the permanent Ukrainian envoy to the United Nations stating that the Russians will get the whole of a bagel before they get any land. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so Zelensky going to hold firm on his position that he is going to refuse to concede any land to Russia, or is the U.S. going to come down hard on him and make him change his mind? So 61% said yes, Zelensky will hold firm on his commitment, while 23% said it depends all on EU support, and 11% said Zelensky will give in. So I'm with the 23%. Basically what happened, Zelensky went to the meeting with the Coalition of the Willing in London with Merz, Starmer, and also Macron, and what happened at that meeting, according to what we've heard, is the Europeans gave Zelensky guarantees that they will ensure that Ukraine is funded, even if the United States gets pissed off with Zelensky and walks from the table. So then right after that meeting ended, Zelensky came out and said he is refusing to give up land. So it all depended on EU support. He got that EU support. He got the commitments he needed to make this bold statement here by refusing to concede land. And I think it's going to hold firm because there's talk right now on the street that currently Britain is saying that there's about 100 billion pounds worth of frozen Russian assets that can be liquidated and then given to Ukraine to fund the war over the next couple of years. And that would basically be the lifeline, the basic survival method, I guess you could say, that Ukraine would need to be able to survive if the U.S. walked away. So now that Zelensky has that guarantee, he's good to go now. He's not going to burn his bridge with the United States because, of course, he still needs parts for F-16s and things like that. But at the same time, though, he's not as dependent on the U.S. as he previously was. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd be with the 61% as well. Zelensky is going to hold firm. Whatever was said to him in the London meeting has given him enough confidence that the Europeans will back him up 100%. Because I think everyone is getting an idea in the world right now that the U.S. isn't worth a damn at this point in foreign policy, so they might as well just do whatever they want. I mean, Thailand's made that clear, and Thailand is hardly in a position like Europe is to tell the U.S. to get lost at this point. So I think the Europeans have told Zelensky, look, if push comes to shove, we're just going to tell the U.S. to get lost and kick rocks, and we'll just keep doing what we want and keep supporting Ukraine. And I think that's what happened, so that's why he's much more resolute on this sort of a deal than he has been in the past, because in the past, over the past few months, he started to be a lot more lenient and kind of tiptoeing around the president and acting like everything he says is a great idea. But today he just came out and said, no, that's stupid. We're not giving up land. And that came right after the London meeting. So clearly something happened at the London meeting that's given him enough confidence to tell the United States to go kick rocks. I really hate that the U.S. is in a position to where we're being told to go kick rocks by folks these days. We're getting a lot of allies who are doing that now. It's not really a good move to get allies that pissed off that they start telling the leader of the sphere to go kick rocks. Everything that we do with other countries is a two-way street, folks. If we sit there and we piss them off, they can't tell us to get lost. And at some point, they actually got the rights to tell us to get lost. And at this point, we're practically giving everyone that's an ally in the world at this point the rights to tell us to go kick rocks. The Japanese are about to that point. The South Koreans will probably get to that point soon as well. Thailand has already done that today. Israel has pretty much in one way or another tried to tell us to kick rocks a couple of times, and I think they're trying to do that by saying that they're friendly with the Russians too, and at this point we ought to be telling them to kick rocks. And then the Europeans are about to tell us to go kick rocks, and the Ukrainians are pretty much telling us today to go kick rocks too. That's not a good spot to be in at all. Terrible spot. Some people might wise up to that. I think most of the public has, because the polling results that came out from the weekend from the Reagan Institute are generally showing that it appears that Americans are wildly unhappy with the current foreign policy approach. And I gotta say, folks, that it is pretty reassuring to know that while the administration appears to be blind, deaf, and dumb, the U.S. public is a lot smarter, adept, and generally more knowing than the U.S. administration is at this point.
It depends.
It depends, but the majority of them, according to the polling, looked like they generally knew what was going on and what we should be doing. So, it kind of depends. You got a lot of stupid people out there, but there's a lot more smarter people out there, apparently, than the dumb ones. But anyways, with that, we are going to be moving on from that news here with the diplomatic developments. And we're now going to be moving on into a little bit of news in Poland, because Poland's given Ukraine an offer. 14 MiGs for $5.99. That's right. You can get yourself the $5 MiG-long for only a little bit of a trade. The Poles are offering 14 MiG-29s to Ukraine instead of all of the MiGs that they have left if the Ukrainians exchange missile and drone technology with Poland. Pretty decent deal. They probably will accept it and get 14 additional MiGs in their Air Force. Moving on out of that news, we are now going to be moving on to the news of the actual Ukraine war. It's actually not a lot tonight, folks, and we don't even have a speech from Zelensky, just to make that clear up front. So the news segment's going to end pretty abruptly here in a little bit. First off, we were able to hear that according to the British Ministry of Defense, they have issued the following as a statement today. It is with deep regret that we must announce that a member of the United Kingdom's armed forces died in Ukraine this morning, Tuesday, the 9th of December. He was injured in a tragic accident whilst observing Ukrainian forces testing a new defensive capability away from the front lines. The family has been notified, and our thoughts are with them at this sad and difficult time. So it does appear that a British soldier has actually died in Ukraine today. This is a very rare announcement. I don't believe we've actually ever seen this before from the Ministry of Defense, that a British soldier has actually died inside of Ukraine. At least according to the little bit of information that they gave us from this public announcement, it appears that the soldier died in the midst of an accident at a testing field, possibly leading us to believe that a weapons system went faulty and apparently ended up possibly killing him and a few other Ukrainians as well in the process, or maybe wounding a couple of other liaisons or Ukrainians in the process of this. Very unfortunate to hear. Condolences to the family of the service member who did die. But this does have a bit of mystery around it, because we do know that there's a lot of liaisons, especially from European countries inside of Ukraine, and they are involved in a lot of supporting roles. They're officially not involved in combatant operations, but they are involved in non-combatant support behind the lines to help develop Ukrainian tactics, abilities, training, doctrine, and so on. Pretty much everything else that is not directly fighting the Russians. And a lot of people are actually putting in their opinions at this point as to what really happened that led to the death of this British service member. And Matthew, what are people thinking about it, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right. So we did hear today, like the enforcer just mentioned, that sadly, and once again, my condolences to the family, a British soldier, and also sadly, we were not told his name, or otherwise we'd give him honors here on the air. We weren't told his name right here, but a British soldier apparently died in Ukraine observing a defensive capability of the Ukrainians. Once again, very vague language there, but what are your thoughts? 67% said he likely did die in a training accident, while 18% said it sounds suspicious but sad, and 8% said it sounds much more sinister than they're letting on. And I'll be honest with you, the vagueness here, also the lack of a name of the soldier, I don't want to turn everything into like a conspiracy theory, but at the same time, though, it's a little bit weird that somehow the British soldier got hurt in a defensive capabilities test behind the lines. That seems a little bit unlikely, because I would assume, since the British soldiers have pretty good training, this was an active duty soldier here in a foreign battlefield, that he was probably better trained than to simply get hurt or, eliminated in a training test. So I don't know. My initial reaction to most things like this is suspicion, but I don't have anything to go on though at the same time. So I'm not really sure. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to be honest with you all. The fact that there is very little detail given about the service member that died and how he died, the conditions under which he died, is something that is a little bit interesting. Because notice that they didn't mention a specific branch; they just said the UK Armed Forces, and it would actually lead me to believe, folks, that a British service member has actually finally died in Ukraine. I believe this may be the first. But he may have been a part of a special operations unit like the Special Air Service or the Boat Service, and he may have not died in a training accident, because also to let y'all know this, historically, throughout most of modern history, whenever anyone in special forces or in some sort of a more secretive role ends up dying overseas, usually the United States, historically, will clarify that and say that this person has unfortunately died in a training accident. So this also could be what the British are doing. He could have died in completely different means than some sort of a training accident or an accident behind the lines. He may have died in some other odd form. But still, I don't really like to speculate too much about the deaths of service members. I'll take it at face value and say that he died in a training accident, so I'd be with a 62%. But at the same time, folks, I will say that the historical precedent does exist, especially within the U.S. Armed Forces, that whenever U.S. service members have died in secret operations in the past, usually after it's been unclassified, it's found out that the families were notified that these members of the armed forces actually died in training accidents, to ensure that the confidentiality of the operation is secure, while also notifying the family about the unfortunate loss of their family member or service member. But moving on from that, we are going to be getting on into the news inside of Russia, as Cheboksary was hit again. We were able to see overnight the Ukrainian drones once again slammed into the sleepy town of Cheboksary on the Volga. Okay, he's okay. Oh man! But moving on from that, we also got some more clips of the hit on Cheboksary.
Я как обосрался, клянусь, блядь. Ой, сука, как я ёбу дал.
And that's the end of that clip, but still showing us effective hits in Cheboksary. Moving on from that, we also heard within the Russian Federation's government a lot of different statements over the course of the day. One, this guy, who literally looks like a living rat of some sort. I don't know why the Russian governmental guys, well, most of them look like some sort of an animal. I gotta find this rat, folks. I gotta find the rat that I'm thinking about. It's from a cartoon. Let's see. Rats Coming to America.
You talking about Pinky and the Brain?
No. It's another one, because hold up. I can find it. I found American Tail. Let me American Tail.
Man, this guy right here, if he wanted to be in Pinky and the Brain, he'd have to rename it to Pinky in the Forehead.
Man, I can find the character here, man. I can find the character. Hold up. We're about to find him. Oh my god. Dude, I'm so close. I'm so close to finding him. And it's just, it's so close yet so far. I just got to get a good picture of the character. Oh my god. This is going to drive me crazy here, folks, because it's right here. Okay, hold up. This guy, he looks like this, but without the beard.
Whoa.
It looks close, doesn't it? I mean, that's pretty damn close to what this guy looks like.
Is the name you're seeing in the chat right there the one you're talking about?
No, it's not. It's not that one. But it's that rat. It's the rat that I showed on screen.
This guy's got a dome. Like this guy right here, like he could polish that. Well, you know, one of those like rotary floor polisher things that you see, like people, they're always like wearing the little headphones, listening to music, and they're doing the little rotary floor polisher, like bouncing around. Like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
This guy's head looks like they put the floor polisher on it with some mop and glow or something, and they polish this thing up to a clean shine.
Man, it's a smooth shine. Man, they said they shine his shit smooth. Oh, man, like, honestly, man. But beyond that, this is one of Putin's top advisors getting to the seriousness of what he said. He stated that, according to the Russian position, we are at war with Europe, not the miserable, pitiful, misled Ukraine. I can't show the full clip, but he went on to explain that the Russians are not going to consider themselves to be victorious in Europe until they've completely defeated Europe as a whole. So they've made it quite clear again, from another level, that they have more ambitions outside of Ukraine. You'd have to be a plumb idiot at this point not to see that. Pretty much everyone in the world seeing that, except for a small handful of people. A small handful of people, and unfortunately, they're the ones with the decision-making power at the moment. It's very aggravating to see that. You know, it's so interesting. You know, I have a feeling, folks, that maybe if Ukraine offered the United States, or particularly a specific person within the government, a free private jet, I think they might get some support. Maybe. But we'd have to see. But moving on from that, we also were able to hear that gas per gallon in Russia is 8% more expensive than it is in America on average now. The gas prices are skyrocketing because the Russian government stopped subsidizing the gas price. So now the gas is directly correlated to the supply and demand value, which is skyrocketing. Considering that Russians make about 6 to 9 times less on average than their American counterparts, you can kind of get the idea that gas is unbelievably unaffordable in Russia currently, if it's even available, because in most oblasts, there are huge shortages still ongoing at this moment, but when you can find some, it's just, you know, it's unaffordable, basically. Isn't that wonderful? I think that's incredible, folks. I think that's absolutely incredible. We also were able...
If you remember what Rinky-Dink Rice said back in the day, he said affordability is a hoax. That's what he said back in the day. He said it's a hoax.
It's a giant hoax. It's a big scam. Everyone's talking about, I can't afford groceries. Groceries are a scam, a literal scam created by the wicked people of the West. They sit there and they say, oh, groceries. Why don't you just photosynthesize like you should do? But anyways, moving on from that, we also were able to hear that Putin has stated that they're going to win no matter what. Here he is saying that we are compelled to do this by force of arms, and we will certainly bring this matter to its logical conclusion, to the achievement of the goal of the special military operation. So unconditional victory by the original terms that they laid out on day one of the invasion. Wow, it's like they've never changed that one. You'd have to be blind to see that the Russians really aren't willing to do a lot to help out. But also, a presidential decree was made in Russia today as well, that they're going to be calling up the reserve for military training in 2026. I wonder why. The reservists for military training. You know, they're kind of doing this in some pretty big batches these days, like a couple of 100,000 at a time. I wonder why in the world they would want the reservists to be trained for military service and up to spec on their abilities. You know, it's just a big question to me, you know? Because it's like, you know, they keep saying that they're going to go to war with Europe, and to do that, they would need a lot more manpower, at least at a minimum, along with a lot of equipment they'll never be able to find. But the manpower situation is the first thing that they have to address, and they keep on training more of these reservists up to a combat-capable ability. So that's kind of a little bit odd. I wonder what's up with that. I have an idea. We'll just never find out the real answer to that. But anyways, we also heard that Moscow was getting slammed last night again, at least in the suburbs. And the property value is dropped. Oh! What the?
And the values in the neighborhood just went that much farther down, less 10%.
Man, it is very sad. Another 200 billion into the war effort, and another 500,000 men dead in Russia for war effort, player. We also saw that there was a Looney Tune death that's happened in the country. Somewhere in Russia, according to Fighter Bomber, which is fairly accurate with his reports on this sort of stuff, somewhere in Russia, in an Su-34, which is the plane that's pictured here in this post, there was an accident that happened. And it is the stupidest accident that we've ever lived to hear the tale of. So, Russian aircraft have ejection seats like all modern aircraft do, but the thing about Russia is that they never really test them enough. And historically, Russian ejection seats actually have this habit of going off just sporadically. without any input to eject them. So what happened is that some Su-34 fighter pilot and a co-pilot climbed in on board the aircraft. This is a tandem seat aircraft, by the way. The pilots actually sit side by side like you would in a car. So they climb in. They're sitting inside of the plane in the hangar. Apparently, the plane is geared to take off soon. It's apparently armed at this point. And out of the blue, the ejection seats go off. Both of them do. And both of the pilots go shooting right out of the cockpit canopy, right up into the roof of the hangar, right above them, and slam into it and get crunched like an accordion, like in a Looney Tunes or a cartoon. I shit you not. That's how they actually both died. And they're dead. Both of them are actually dead. The jettison was so violent, and the impact with the roof obviously was so violent, they just ended up both dying. I've heard that apparently Bugs Bunny crawled out of a hole right afterwards and went, "Yeah, what's up, Doc?" and then went back into the hole. And also Elmer Fudd appeared along with the Tasmanian Devil. And apparently,
I think there's a small reenactment of the event right there in that GIF at the bottom right.
I don't even know if we could show that. It's like I don't know. I mean, we're kind of showing it right now, but that's kind of wild, honestly. Why did they jettison out of like the jet engines though? They didn't come out of the canopy.
I'm not sure. They kind of yeah, I'm not sure. That must be AI.
Yeah, it is like that is AI.
If it's AI, then you can show it then at that rate.
I mean, hell, let's oh, it has audio. I don't trust that.
Just don't play the audio. Yeah, we'll skip on it.
Yeah, we'll skip on that. But I have heard, folks, that due to this unfortunate accident, these two Russian pilots are going to be given a proper Russian military funeral. They'll be put into the crappiest pine box they can find, and they're also going to have, apparently, the following pallbearers. Scooby-Doo, Freddy, Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd, and also the Tasmanian Devil. So they're going to be given a proper send-off, the Looney Tunes style. They will be buried as they lived in a Looney Tunes cartoon, apparently, because I've never heard of any, I've heard of this happening a lot in Russia before, actually. This is quite common, especially in the Soviet era. But hearing about it actually happening just yesterday, that is something else. Imagine being in the Russian Air Force, and instead of dying to Ukrainian ground fire like a lot of Russian pilots have, you die because your ejection seat shoots you off into the roof of your hangar before you can even get the jet ready to taxi to the runway. I mean, that's one hell of a way to go right there.
Death by premature ejection is a terrible way to go out.
Man, honestly, man, they should have got some aero agra like they could to fix that issue. I mean, you know, premature ejections, that's a rough one to work with right there. But with that, folks, it is time for us to move on into Ukraine, and we have very, very little left to cover, actually, folks. It's generally just a location unknowns and one combat clip. We were able to see that the Russian Shaheds are now being designed to drop cluster rounds, so they're designing war crimes into their drones now. You can actually see it deploying the clusters right there. And then the Ukrainians chase the drone down and take it out anyways. Moving on from that clip and on into our next one, we also get to see something that is absolutely terrifying. That is a drone swarm that the Ukrainians have programmed through AI to conduct a joint attack as a swarm on an individual target. And these things have been programmed to go after tanks. So this is a hunter-killer squad of drones that is anti-tank in function. Take a look at how effective it is. And by the way, this is all AI operated from what we've heard. That's terrifying. That's absolutely
How come they're not
terrifying.
using that right now? Is this just like a test for like proof of concept, or are they trying to sell it?
They're proving the concept at this point. They're trying to get it to where it's fieldable.
Okay, well, yeah, when they finally field that's going to be devastating.
The reason why they showed this today, Matthew, is because they're like, this is coming for you, Vadim. Like, that's what they're doing with the clip. They're like, this is coming for you. If you think you're safe in your stupid hedgehog, wait until 9 drones hit you at one time. But look at that. Oh, that is so scary. Dude, that, like, the first few drones are going to knock any welded armor off of a tank instantly. And then the rest of them are just going to go in and clear out the rest of whatever's left.
Can you imagine if big powers, like let's say the United States and China get into it or something, and we've at that point hopefully caught up in the drone race here in the United States? That is going to be horrifying. It's going to be probably way more advanced and also in much larger quantities than what Ukraine's even using, because we have a much larger budget than Ukraine.
Yeah, I would have to say I think we're way behind them still at this point, but eventually when we catch up, it'll be like this, but about probably 50 times larger and more complex, but still conducted effectively. We also were able to see some additional developments with an F-16 in Ukraine apparently carrying the Pantera pod. The Pantera pod is essential for using any sort of laser-guided weaponry, as it literally attaches a laser guidance system onto the F-16. So this actually allows for this F-16 in particular to actually use any sort of laser-guided munitions. So it can use APKWS rockets against drones. It can also guide laser-guided bombs like the JDAMs onto their targets, onto a pinpoint target. So this is actually heavily improving the abilities of this specific F-16 in the Ukrainian Air Force. We also saw the Russians doing a little bit of trench clearing in some training, of course. Let's see how they do. Here they go. Man, this guy right here, they called in the heavy armor. That's at least a medium tank.
They call him Campbell's Extra Chunky. Also, why does it always sound like there's somebody like dying of tuberculosis in the background of all these Russian videos? Like somebody's back there just hacking it up in the background.
They are. Like, they are dying of tuberculosis. Man, you know every clip is a Russian clip when it starts off with "suka," man, like every clip is Russian after that. Oh, look, he slid on down in there, man. You know, when he hit the bottom of that trench, the whole trench shook. They knew the Russians were in. Also, by the way, they're just making the bum 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 sounds because one, it's cheaper than paying for ammo, and two, they're just doing this half-assed, really.
Все, ты сомневаешься, второй кидает гранату. Уебало, дым.
Listen back into the bang, 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 bang.
Man, here everyone is a trench clearing, and I'm going to sing "Little Drummer Boy." Here they cover him, bam, 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 bam. Like, move up, guys. Oh,
Просто прострел. Пах-пах.
Bam, 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 bam.
Remember your 2 group. Don't forget your training.
And this guy back here, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just protecting the rear. Bam, 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 bam. Wow, this is effective training, folks. No wonder they're getting their asses beat. Also, I like how a lot of people pointed out that this is a waist-deep trench, and most trenches in Ukraine are about head-deep. Like, your whole body is in the trench, even when you're standing. So, that is another good point. They were so lazy about this training, they couldn't even dig the trench with a trench-digging machine deep enough to actually simulate a real trench. Really pathetic. Bam, 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 bam. Okay, everyone, go
Ближе
back.
двойки друг к другу. Не отставаем. Все, первый номер становится.
How much effort that guy had to put into getting up, man. He had to like put both arms in the trench to lift himself up. It's like this guy's not in any good shape.
Man, none of them are. Like, none of them are. Bam, 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 bam. Very nice. Oh, no, the big boy is taking up the back. The rear guard, I mean.
Расстрел. Только потом ты заходишь.
Bam, 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 bam.
Some rumors have it this is the Russian mating ritual. They go around going bum 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 bum.
Hey, lady. Bam, 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 bam. Man, you know, I actually heard that Borat was actually the one guiding this training. He said, put on your pants and show ass to Ukrainians, and then go bam, 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 bam. Moving on from that, we also got the Russian casualty report, which was quite interesting. One Bobcat. Hey!
Hey, let's go. Come on. Thank you very much.
Bam, bam, bam. But beyond that, Misty, keeper of the records, has stated that 432 drones ranks as the 23rd highest daily loss of the war, and losses are below average except artillery and special equipment, which Ukrainians always excel at getting. Over the past 24 hours, the Ukrainian forces have killed and wounded 930 Russian soldiers, destroyed 2 APCs, 61 supply trucks, 27 artillery pieces, 432 drones, 1 MLRS, and 1 Bobcat skid steer. It was not the biggest day of losses, but still a pretty okay day altogether. And so, moving on into our only combat clip of the day, which was near Konstantinivka, we got to see the Russians in the Konstantinivka Rasputitsa mod. We call this the Ukrainian Extra Sloppy Special. Oh, this looks fun.
Isn't that? Isn't that sad, by the way? They're going through all this effort trying to pull that little busted rinky-dink car out of this deep mud because they're so desperate for vehicles they can't afford to lose it. That thing was not worth saving.
Man, it was not at all. I mean, look at that thing. That thing is cooked. It's got no doors. Engine's probably busted, shot beyond belief. Probably needing an engine reseal, honestly. The back's, like a whole bunch of stuff like that. It's bad looking.
I will admit, though, I'm kind of impressed that Buhanka is able to pull this out of the mud because that is some deep mud right there. Like pretty much any vehicle would get stuck in that. It's like that's feet deep of mud right there. Terrible conditions.
Man, horrific conditions. But that's what the front line's looking like right now. And honestly, folks, that might be why we're not getting a lot of combat footage today, is because it's basically impossible to even move around due to how bad the mud is. But with that, folks, that is the end of the news from Ukraine and the end of the news from around the entirety of the world. And I got to be honest with y'all, folks, we had 55 news bulletins tonight, and I'm actually kind of shocked that we were able to get through that in about 2 hours and 10 minutes. Usually we have about 30, and it takes about 2 hours to get through 30 news bulletins. Tonight we were actually able to get through 55, and not only that, do a decent amount of analysis, polling, and also generally talking with all of y'all in the midst of it. And so, of course, with that in mind, it's now time for us to move on into the second segment of the stream, where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. And boy, howdy, folks, is that an incredibly fun time? Oh, that is the funnest time, because we get to talk about literally anything and everything except for religion, politics, climate change, and whether the A-10 is relevant in modern warfare or not. But everything else is on the menu, folks. And of course, we're going to be getting into that immediately. But, of course, I lie. Like many U.S. politicians, I lie. We're not getting into the questions immediately. We actually have a poll that we have not addressed yet, and we have to address. And so, Matthew, I understand that this poll is actually talking about a specific mill blogger, which wasn't able to include because I had to trim him out, unfortunately. But it was actually a Russian military blogger who's fairly popular in Russia. And today, he actually started to blame the Russian government for the war. The war! Could you believe it, folks? Could you believe it? And Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about that as well?
All right, so we had seen a few days ago that a retired or former Russian commander was out in the public on a podcast saying that he blamed Vladimir Putin and his regime for basically letting lies take them into the Ukraine war unnecessarily. And now we're hearing today another major Russian military blogger is also saying the same thing, that Putin's regime lied to start the Ukraine war. So that's unusual in Russia for two very popular individuals to be saying that in the public. Very unusual. What is happening with that? 53% said opposition is actually forming against Vladimir Putin and it's getting a foothold, while 22% said it's intentional messaging by Putin himself, and 18% said it seems like isolated rebellion. So here's the prevailing theories right now. There's two of them actually. Some people say there's a real opposition forming to Vladimir Putin and that this is going to be very dangerous because if this gains enough momentum, then they can throw Vladimir Putin out of office, hypothetically. But at the same time, there's another camp of people saying that this is intentional messaging by Putin and he's doing this on purpose and having these people say this in the public as a way to shift the public perception about the war and to basically start saying some sneaky way of they're going to have to leave the war for those reasons, that he was lied to by some of his top officials. So I would say personally, I think to me, it sounds like isolated rebellion, actually. It sounds like a couple of people are getting so fed up with the stagnation on the front lines that they're actually getting aggravated enough to publicly say that Putin led them into a disaster. So I'm actually with 18%. I don't think it's intentional, and I don't think there's an opposition forming. That's way too early to say that. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that, in my honest opinion, I think that it is isolated rebellion as well. It's not intentional messaging by Putin because we could have said that about a lot of people prior, including Ivan Popov, who is in prison, along with Igor Girkin, who is also in prison, along with many other people. I'd actually have to be honest with y'all, folks. I would say and generally believe that these are people who are actually getting tired and fed up of this, and honestly, they're treading dangerous water here because if they keep up with statements like that, it could end up that they could end up in prison a lot like Gherkin, Popov, and many others, or dead like Yevgeny Prigozhin, who have made it openly clear that they didn't like Putin or the Russian government either, or the war for that matter. So I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion. And with that, Matthew, it's time for us to move on into those questions. So please tell us, what do we got? What do we got, Matthew?
All right, so we have some questions. Our first one here goes to Mark Ead, and Mark puts in a generous $50 support. And thank you very much, Mark, for that $50 support and also helping to keep the channel
Hey!
going. And Mark said, a little help along at Costco, LSA, and NZ. Honestly, Mark, I will say this. Every time I go to Costco, and I shop conservatively these days because of the pricing has gone crazy on groceries, but at the same time, every time I go there, they scan one thing, price jumps up. They scan the second thing, price jumps up another huge amount. I'm like having a heart attack at the cash register as they're checking me out. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to handle this. I'm having to clutch the cart. I'm like shivering and shaking and stuff like that. I'm like sweating at the cash register. And I'm like, when is the number gonna stop going up? And it just keeps going up. And then I'll leave and I'll have like 10 things in my cart or something. I'll be like, well, how the hell did it come out to that for only 10 things? I have no idea. And also the beef prices have gotten crazy too. So I appreciate the help, Marquis. I appreciate that. But Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you massively for the support, Marquis, because I actually went to Costco today, folks. I went to Costco today. No joke, folks. No joke at all. And you know, Matthew, you want to take it, like, I'll tell you the items that I got, and you give me a rough estimate of how much you think this is going to cost. So I got 3 of the pre-prepared meal things, you know, the ones that you throw in the oven. I then got a little pizza, like the pizza that you also throw in the oven. I then got a couple of breads, like a little bread roll, croissants, some stuff like that, basically. And then some potato chips, a couple of frozen items to microwave. I think it was like 2 of them. And let's see, I think a snack. It was like that little fruit, the fruit deal, you know, the sour fruit things that you got before. It was that. So that was basically all I got today. Y'all want to take a guess at how much all that cost? You want to take a guess, man?
$130.
$200.
You must have not listed off a couple of things, but I've memorized those prices. That should come out to about 130, 140.
Man, it was $200. But
You must have gotten some extra in there.
let's see. I'm trying to think of what else did I get extra. Let's see. I got these little energy drink things. I didn't know that they were energy drinks when I got them. I thought they were just like little sodas. But they're apparently energy drinks. I got that. But let's see. I'm trying to think of everything that I got. There was like just a. Let's see, I got a pumpkin pie. I was trying to keep that secret from you, by the way, because I was going to invite you over for that sometime. But I got a pumpkin pie. That was only $6. But you know, that's how much it was. Like I think that's the only additional stuff I got. It was about $200. Like including tax, it was actually $210 or so. So fairly expensive. And I got to thank you massively for the support, Marquis, because I'm saying that, folks, to put out the number, because I didn't get a whole lot. It was basically essential food to eat with some snacks, and then a couple of little side deals just to, you know, have some like creature comfort type of stuff. And it was $210, including tax. Now, that is something that qualitatively tells you, especially when my cart, by the time I was done and getting to the cash register, was about half full or less than half full. Also, by the way, I cannot forget, I did get the rotisserie chicken, but that's $5. So it's not like, you know, it's adding a whole lot there. But
that's the best deal in the joint outside the bananas. Like the bananas are a freebie almost. The Costco chicken is a freebie. And then if you want to hit the food court on the way out, it's almost like a freebie too, because their prices are pretty low on the food court. But let's see. The milk is another freebie. The butter is kind of that way as well. There's a couple things in there. They make them like intentionally cheap to lure you into the store. They're like freebies. It's lower. Yeah, the loss leaders. They do that on purpose, and those are the ones I always grab when I go in there because they're the cheapest. But outside of that, though, like the one section that will just kill you, like the section that will kill you, is the snack section. Like the snack, those things are crazy. Like I don't know why they put such crazy prices on snacks, like things that come in like individual bags and stuff like that. I just completely skip that. Like I don't even go to it because everything's crazy priced.
yeah, me too. I don't even get snacks. It's just meal food now, and that's it, because the snacks are literally insanely expensive. Like if you got some decent snacks to get a variety, folks, that'd probably make the grocery bill, at least for me, $300. And like, by the way, that's about $200 every 2 weeks or so. Generally, I stretched out the last run to like 3 weeks, but that's about $200 every 3 weeks to 2 weeks for food. That's it, like just food to eat. That's quite a lot of money. So at a minimum, it's costing me about $400 about a month to eat, and that's not, and that's if I'm not eating out at all. I do eat out, and that adds a good bit to it as well. So just saying that because the huge support in the super chats is massively thankful and greatly appreciative on our end, because it helps us to be able to just eat and keep the lights on and stuff. But I also say that because there is someone out there right now saying that affordability is a hoax and that prices aren't rising, and if you say that prices are rising, you're a hater. And I'm just saying that prices are rising because they are, because I remember when that same amount of stuff used to be like $160, and that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
So it's gone up like $40 in about a year. And then we're
And
being
also,
told that if you say that, you're a liar and you're a hater.
Also, by the way, the meat prices are insane. Like I stopped by because I was like, I'm not one to go like buy a bunch of meat from the store and go home and cook it like steaks and things like that. Usually it's too expensive anyway. But I went by there out of curiosity. I was trying to find the ground beef because I'm trying to make like large portions of like a easy to make cheap meal to like cut costs down a little bit. I've started doing that now, which is actually not too bad. It's actually way better than what I was previously doing, which was just trying to like piece meals together here and there. But it's a much better deal to do that. But now the meat prices are crazy. Like for the lowest cut of meat, I think it was like, I can't remember the name of it. It was like that portion or that side of beef that nobody really wants, and it was like the really cheap one. It used to be like $20. I remember that from like 2 years ago. Now it's 45 and $50 for the cheapest cut. And if you want to get a medium cut, it's like 60 to $70, and then the highest cut's like almost $100 for like a pack of it. It's like that's crazy talk. And also it's $8 a pound now for ground beef. Like it used to be $4. I remember buying it at $4. It's $8+ a pound for ground beef, which is like basic. It's basic stuff you put in pretty much any meal just to have protein in it. It's $8 a pound. So for like a 3-pack of ground beef from Costco, I think I paid like something like 20 something plus dollars for it, or $20 or something. It was something crazy like that.
It was insane. And that one, though, I will say that's because of the bovine flu that came through and it wiped out a whole bunch of cattle. So they have less to go around, so the prices go up. That one's generally uncontrollable. That's one of the ones where it's like, there really can't be a lot done for that one for now. It's a bit of a longer term fix that has to be done, and it has to be done by the cattle industry. But I will say this though, folks. So the prices go up because of the bovine flu, and like, you'll hear this thrown around, and I'll explain this because some people don't know the agriculture side of things, or generally the husbandry side of things like this. You'll hear someone say, the prior administration gave out an execution order to tens of thousands of cattle. They just killed them to screw over the current administration. That's not the case at all. The reason why the kill order came down is because all of those cattle were infected with bovine flu. If they continue to live with the bovine flu, they are going to spread it around, because cows eat in communal feed troughs, and they also drink out of communal water troughs as well. So they will spread it around, and then you're going to see that there is a literal near extinction event for American cattle, because they're going to kill every other cow by infecting them with the bovine flu as well. So the kill order came down from, I believe it was the Food and Drug Administration and the Department of Agriculture, to have all those cattle killed so that we didn't infect the rest of them and kill all of them off. So because of that, also apparently it was bird flu, not bovine, but nevertheless it was a specific kind of a flu that was going to kill off most of the cattle if they continued to have it. So what they did is that they ended up killing all of those cattle that were infected, so that way they wouldn't end up infecting all the others and getting them killed as well. So because of that, the supply has dropped drastically, because a lot of the cattle that were about to go to slaughter aren't going to slaughter, and because of that, the supply has been greatly reduced. The demand for meats is historically higher now than it's ever been, so those two results create drastically higher prices. The cattle industry is saying that they'll probably be able to fix that by getting enough steers ready for slaughter within the next 2 years, but it's not something that they can fix overnight, because you have to, one, breed the cows, then you have to have them mature to an age to be slaughtered, and then have them slaughtered, and that will take about 2 years' time for that to come to pass. So in the meantime, just
you heard though that they're bailing out the farmers with 12 billion though, because they're saying the tariffs have hit the farmers so bad, and this is I think referring to crops. I don't think this is necessarily like ranchers. Yeah, but there's still, I mean, the farmers on the other side of the coin here with like barley, corn, etc., all these crops, they're having to get bailed out at least with 12 billion from what I've heard. So they're apparently getting hit pretty hard.
Yeah, the actual agricultural farmers, the ones who actually farm crops, they were hit badly. I don't think, from what I know, the cattle farmers, or the cattle ranchers more so is what they are, have really been hit too badly. But if you thought they hadn't been hit badly yet, I'll also tell you all this. This isn't anything getting into domestic politics. This is literally just what's happened. So the president has practically declared a war on the cattle farmers because the prices have risen, because there's less cattle going to slaughter because of the disease that was going around that led to them having to kill off tens of thousands of steers. So the president's now saying that we're going to import tons of Argentine beef, pretty much undercut the farmers in America, well, the ranchers in America, to where they can't even sell their beef because they have to sell it at high prices because of the low supply. The Argentine beef is just going to come in and undercut them. So then they're not going to be making any money. So on top of having to kill off most of their cattle because of the disease that they couldn't control, they're most likely also just going to be completely imploded and put out of business because we're just going to start undercutting them with cheap Argentine beef. So, not only are the actual crop farmers doing badly, the ranchers are also probably going to be doing quite badly as well. So, like that's.
And also, I am not doing that fake meat. Like I see people mentioning like the Impossible Burger and all that stuff. I don't want it. I'm like, it tasted like you could tell it wasn't real meat. Like it was close, but you could tell it wasn't right. There was like a weird texture to the stuff. Like it wasn't right. Like they called it Impossible Burger. I'm like, it's impossible for me to eat this. Like it's not even good. It's like, I think there was like a whole bunch of investors in that, like tech bros that invested in it. It just didn't take off. Like I'm not sure where they're at now. I'm not sure if they're even are they still around, by the way?
I don't even know. I don't think so.
Let's see here. Impossible Meat. Let's see here. So apparently they're still around. I don't know where they're at anymore. Maybe they're still selling in a store. Maybe I just hadn't seen it or something. But I don't want fake meat. It's like if we have to start resorting to fake meat, then we need to actually solve the problem why we're not able to get real meat instead of like trying to create like this fake meat. I don't want meat from a lab.
Yeah, I don't want any of that stuff. I want, but also, there is a bit of a caveat to that. Cattle ranching is very resource consumptive. I think it takes something like 50 gallons of water, and I think it's like several tons of feed to create 1 pound of beef. So it is fairly resource intensive to cattle ranch to actually get some beef to slaughter and then to market. That's a fairly difficult very resource intensive sort of thing. That's also why meat's fairly expensive, even normally. But another thing that I see some people saying is about the whole thing with Argentina. Yeah, we give them 40 billion, but another thing that I find interesting is that we've been tariffing countries or threatening to tariff countries all year long because we have a trade deficit with them, and we also want to sell American, right? So what we're going to do now is we're going to go completely against that policy when it comes to beef. We're going to completely destroy the cattle ranching industry in America, which is historically a staple, at least in the agricultural field. Completely decimate them to import tons of Argentine beef and completely destroy that American industry because they did something that was they had something happen to them that was entirely out of their control. I'm like, how does that make sense? And I'm not saying this stuff, folks, to get political here. I'm just saying it because it doesn't make any sense, and I'm truly looking for someone to explain that in a way that it would make sense, which I think that goal is impossible. Because why in the world is it that we're going to be protectionist and then expansionist? Nobody can sell in America, and we can only sell stuff to other countries outside of America. But when it comes to beef, we'll literally nuke the cattle ranching industry here in America and undercut them, and then import it from somewhere else. Like that completely.
That's almost like what happened with Ukraine and Poland. You remember that whole situation. The Ukrainians were importing grains to Poland, and it started undercutting the Polish farmer really, really badly. So the Polish farmers went berserk. They started getting their tractors out in the street. They started going crazy, saying, stop importing that cheap Ukrainian grain that Ukraine's willing to sell at such a low cost because they're killing the domestic Polish farming industry by undercutting it. It's basically the same thing, but this time it's with beef in America.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely the same thing. It's not going to, like, it was ending badly for Poland, and Poland definitely had a right to protect their own domestic agricultural industry. America should be protecting our own agricultural industry as well. That's a strategic industry, mind you all. We do not want to be reliant on foreign countries' food imports from overseas in the midst of wartime. That's an incredibly easy logistical sort of a hurdle that could get destroyed, and then we just completely lose a food resource for the duration of that war. Not a good thing. And I also see, oh, look at this. You're lying! Importing Argentine beef won't undercut the farmers. That's what happened in Ukraine with grain. Why wouldn't that happen with beef? Do you not know how an economy works? Like if you import something that's cheaper. So wait a minute, hang on. So in your mind, importing cheap, shitty Chinese goods does undercut American industries and has completely destroyed them, which is true. But then importing Argentine beef and undercutting our cattle ranchers isn't doing the same thing to them, although it's literally the exact same thing cheap Chinese goods have done to the U.S. economy and industry. How does that make sense? How do you justify that mentally? Why in the world is it? Like, I just got to ask this. Why in the world is it that people apply completely different standards to the very same equation, depending on whether they like the person making that decision or not? There's no real reason to have a different outcome. It's just that you like this guy and you didn't like the other guy. So when this guy does it, it's great and it'll actually turn out swimmingly. But when the other guy does it, he's actually wanting to kill Americans, not just screw them over. Like, how in the world does that work for people? Like, you know, like when we're on this channel, if something is stupid and something doesn't make sense, we just call it for what it is. We don't care who it is. It just turns out to be that this guy happens to make a lot of stupid decisions often. And that's how we do it. Like, we don't sit there and go, oh, we have a clear bias. So, you know, if the last guy did something, he's obviously justified in doing it. But if the current guy does the same thing, then he's the devil. I don't really get that from folks.
They're just beefing.
Yeah, and man, this person is absolutely tweaking. I don't know if you see it. Like, absolutely going off right there. Gotta say, that's a sad thing to see. And also, now they're saying that's their industry, that's their field. I guess I guess I have no clue what I'm talking about. It's just that happened in Poland when Ukraine started importing their grain into the Polish market. They started to undercut the Polish farmers and almost bankrupt them. So why in the world wouldn't that happen with Argentine beef, considering that it's cheaper than American beef? Explain that to me.
Yeah, honestly, we're at this point, we're just beefing over some fake beef at this point.
I mean, like, honestly,
Impossible Meat, Beyond Meat, fake meat, beefing.
And also, I want you to explain, because you're not banned yet, but if you keep on that way, you'll probably will be. Actually explain to me in a empirical manner, rather than just telling me I'm wrong. Explain to me in an empirical manner how I'm wrong. Because right now you're just saying I'm wrong, you're not saying how I'm wrong. So explain how I'm wrong, rather than just saying I'm wrong, and then I'll actually take that. And you're saying it because it's not equivalent anyway. How? Explain how. Like, you're not explaining anything. You're just saying I'm wrong and it's not equivalent. How's it not equivalent? You've got to explain.
This is turning into streamer beef now.
I mean, really. I mean, like I gotta say, folks, people always want to say that we're wrong, and then they never get into the empirical explanation of why it'd be wrong. And that's the thing that gets me angry about people who say that we're wrong, is that they never really know how to articulate how we're wrong. So if we're wrong, we're just wrong and we don't even know how we're wrong, or we're not wrong and they're just saying we're wrong because they don't like hearing what we're saying. It's one or the other. But anyways,
I think you're selling the beef too cheap.
I think so. I think we need to up the price. And obviously importing goods, cheaper goods, has no impact on U.S. industry. Yeah, I know.
They're not gonna go for that.
They're just gonna keep, you're wrong. Like, it's just gonna keep doing that for another hour. But anyways, with that, we are gonna be. Oh, wait a minute, hang on, folks.
Don't let them rage bait. They are rage baiting the hell out of you right now. We got to move on.
Man, look at this guy. I suggest you speak to veterinarians in the industry. So then I add. Well, here's the funny thing.
Veterinarians.
Folks. Here's the funny thing.
I thought they were supposed to save the cow. Yeah. They weren't supposed to like slaughter it and sell it for like beef.
But here's the thing. This guy says, I work in the industry and you're wrong. And then I say, explain to me how I'm wrong. Then he says, I'm not going to explain to you how you're wrong. You're going to have to go and find the answer from veterinarians and wizards on why you're wrong. You're just an idiot. Like, it's like, I gotta say this really quickly. This guy isn't just some random guy. I've seen this username in the chat for about 6 months. This is a guy who regularly watches the channel, has been triggered because I'm saying something that's economic sense, and he doesn't like to hear it, so now he's angry. You're just a flat out fool, man. Like if you can't explain to me how I'm wrong, then you don't even know how I'm wrong, and you're just saying that because you're political and you drank the Kool-Aid and you don't like hearing that something's bad that your guy's doing. So womp womp, cry a little harder, and go find a new show or something that will listen to your rantings about beef. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, by the way, real quick question for the whole audience. When you have steak, honestly, I hadn't had steak in a minute. Like, I'll be honest with you, because it's just too damn expensive. Like, I'm not paying those kind of prices for one meal. That's stupid, in my opinion. If you can afford it, great. But, you know, when you finally do have a steak, what sauce are you putting on it? Me personally, I actually just like butter with that rosemary on the steak. I think that's pretty solid. But if you had to pick a sauce, Worcestershire, A1, the Queen sauce, HP, I think it's called, or something. Which one would you have to pick? Honestly, I'm just going with the butter.
Man, honestly, man, I'd probably go with the butter as well. But anyways, with that, we are going to be on to the next question as that fool receives his ban.
And our next one goes to Timothy Bunnell, who puts in a $50 support. And thank you very much, Timothy, for that 50 as well. We do appreciate that. And Timothy said, great work as always, gentlemen. And I hope you guys have a very happy holiday and buy yourself a nice fruit basket from me. Oh, thank you. And he said, take one from the live chat.
And thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep running. We will get a nice fruit basket. Fruit baskets sound really good right now. I could go for some fruit, maybe some vegetables too. You know, some nice green beans. That would be quite appreciative, honestly. But a humongous thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible and help the LSA to keep on rolling. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I'm seeing a lot of, I'm going to put a poll up on the steak thing right there, by the way, because I will admit, like the few times I've ever had steak, it was very, very tasty. I will admit, very tasty, very good. I love steak. But at the same time, though, steak is a rarity these days. I'm very appreciative for steak. But I'll put up a poll on it, by the way, about the sauce, because it looks like there's a lot of different opinions here, and people are begging for polls. Some people say they're hankering for the polls. But jumping into our next one here, this one goes to Mark Ead once again, and Mark puts in another $50 support, and thank you very much, Mark, for that 50 as well. He said 2 for Tuesdays, LSA, NZ.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, Mark. And a big shout out to New Zealand. Really cool New Zealand. Really neat country, actually. Beautiful place. One day we'll go down there and get to see it ourselves. And I got to thank you so much for the support. I'm being a New Zealander in the LSA. A really cool thing to have New Zealanders in the LSA, and we thank you massively for helping this channel to keep on running, so that way we can keep covering news from around the world. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well, and thank you for 2 for Tuesday. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Hokey Redneck, and he puts in a 50 as well. And a huge shout out to you, Hokey, for supporting the channel in a very big way, just like Mark, Timothy, Bobby, and the rest of them, and the rest of the folks. They are very generously supporting the channel. And Hokey said, Andrew and Matt, can you explain consideration in a contract and why $1 is used? And yes, I can, Hokey, but you're going to give me flashbacks, which could be risky. But consideration is required in contracts. But without consideration, you don't have a valid contract. It's not going to be upheld in court. Why $1 is used is that's considered, I believe, nominal consideration. That is the least amount that's able to be used to have a proper amount of consideration in the contract. I think I'm sort of glossing over the specifics with that, but I can't remember the specifics. But that's generally what I remember. I scored good on those exams, by the way. Even though I left law school, I did good, but I can't remember it that well. But Enforcer, what say you?
Matthew explained it correctly. It's just that there's details that he's leaving out. I can't really remember them either. I remember taking loads of notes on consideration, but I can't remember a damn thing from it. I hardly even remember what the inside of the law school looks like anymore, folks. I absolutely buried that part of life and left it behind to die. But I will say that Matthew was largely correct on consideration, though, because if you don't have any consideration from both sides, it is an invalid contract, because it actually shows that there is not any sort of, I believe, what is it, Matthew? It's something for
there's no meeting of the minds.
Yeah, there's...
Well, no, wait a minute. It's not meeting of the minds.
It's performance.
Well, it's not performance. It's not performance either. It's... I can't remember it, man. It got very complex. Like the concept of consideration was not too hard to grasp, but the details of it got complex quick.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it. Let's go pull it up. Contract consideration. Meaning. Let's go see if we can get it from here.
I remember somebody raised their hand, by the way, when they said, does anybody know what consideration is? Like, do you know what consideration is in a contract? Someone in the class raised their hand and they said, does that mean they thought about it? I was like, what the? I was like, listen, even I knew it wasn't that. Like, I knew the answer wasn't going to be that one. I mean, that was too obvious. He got roasted, by the way.
So apparently, Daniel Dickinson's actually saying that it was performance. Like there has to be some specific performance from both parties for it to be a actual contract with consideration. But according to the AI overview, which you should definitely not get legal advice from, let's see. Consideration is the bargain exchange of something of a value between parties, which is essential for a contract to be binding, is the price paid for a promise, and can include money, goods, services, or a promise to do or not do something. Without this mutual exchange, it's a gratuitous promise and not an enforceable contract. Which I remember that they had loads of shit, like, you know, the cases about, this is actually a gratuitous promise, because there was no consideration given by both parties. And,
Do you remember that stupid one about the Pepsi case, about the stupid fighter jet or something?
And they had
like
promised a Harrier. Yeah, like.
Oh my God. They're like, do you think, and my contra professor was like hyped up. The dude was like, he acted crazy. Like he really did. And also he wasn't very personable either. I remember trying to like talk to the guy and he was not very personable. He was very like standoffish and stuff. I don't know what his deal was, but he always acted crazy, like in middle class, running back and forth across the like stage and stuff like that. He was just he was loony Ben, honestly. But he was like, what do you think that when they got the offer that they really thought they were going to get a Harrier, so and so, and he like randomly just calling somebody like really quickly who would be caught off guard, obviously, and they would not know the answer to it. Honestly, like there was parts of law school I kind of liked, but like overall though, like I'm not sure if it was just the professors that made it bad or what. I'll be honest with you, I didn't jive with too many of the professors that I had. There was a couple of them I did, but I had way better relations with the professors in college than I did in law school by a long shot.
Oh yeah, I would agree. But man, I remember that guy. What is property? What is like? You know, I was like, oh my God. I was like, please make this end. Like, make this suffering end. I beg of you. Man, I hated law school with passion, but some of the professors were actually somewhat chill. But I remember, man, that I was in the contracts class and that Harrier case came up, and they played the clip. And what was weird, folks, is that in like the Pepsi commercial, I think it was like a CGI Harrier, but it was like a Royal Navy Harrier, like one of the more like offshoot ones that the American public wouldn't really know as a variant. And I'm like, why the hell did they have that in the commercial? Why didn't they pick like an American Harrier, like an AV-8B or something? They picked a damn literal Harrier from Britain, like a Sea Harrier. I was like, what the hell? But beyond that, let me go.
You're gonna criticize what Harrier they were giving away?
Yeah, let me go pull it up for y'all, because I gotta show y'all. Yeah, oh my God, it really, yeah, it was just so bizarre, because if I remember correctly, it's the damn Sea Harrier. Let me go pull it up. The Sea Harrier. It's like one of the earlier iterations. Yeah. Oh my God, it's this one. It's literally this one. So this is the Royal Navy Sea Harrier, which is mind you, it is a very specific variant of the Harrier. It's only used by the Fleet Air Arm of the Royal Navy. That's it. Nobody else uses this thing. And then for some reason in the Pepsi commercial, they used a Sea Harrier from like the Royal Navy. And it's an American commercial, mind you. So you think they go with something that everyone would know in America, like the AV-8B, which was the most common and prolific version that we had of the Harrier, which is this one? But then they went with that one. I was like, why? I was like, that's the only thing I remember from that whole case, man, honestly, is that Harrier. Because I remember watching the clip and I was like, this is an ad for an American audience. Why do they have a British Harrier in it instead of the AV-8B, which is our Harrier?
Yeah, that was so silly. What's crazier though is apparently someone went out there and bought enough Pepsi to actually qualify to get the jet. That's the crazy part. It's like somebody was dedicated. They were trying to set something up. They got their way.
Yeah, they got their way. But, you know, still absolutely weird sort of a deal. And also, Hokey Redneck said law stuff as part of a realtor sucked. I think law just sucks in general. There are people out there who find that to be their thing, and, you know, my hat's off to them. I could never. But I just absolutely hate most legalese related stuff. Like, thankfully enough, because our dad was an attorney and we also went to law school, we can blow through a contract and read one really quickly and understand exactly what it's saying. But still, I absolutely hate the legal side of stuff. Very helpful to know, but it's hell on earth and torture to learn about. But anyways,
I like to do the legal stuff to be able to know it personally. So that way, if I'm reviewing a contract for like, for a channel or something like that, I know what I'm looking at. Like I like it for that reason. I just don't want to like live, eat, breathe, and sleep at 24/7. That's the problem. I don't want to make it my full occupation because it's like it's like I got a lot of gripes about it, but I just don't want to do it full time.
yeah, I wouldn't either. Oof, rough stuff, I tell you. But anyways, a huge thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep running. And we're on to the next one.
Also, by the way, real quick, sauce on steak. That's what the poll question asks. It said 42% said butter and rosemary, which is pretty solid.
Oh.
37% said A1 sauce, while 13% said Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire.
8% said HP sauce. What does that stand for, by the way? Is that horsepower?
I don't know what that stands for. Let me go pull a HP sauce. Let's see here. What does it stand for?
London's Houses of Parliament. I did not know it was named after that.
It's the House of Parliament. You get your sauce in Parliament. Like, it's like, what is that made of?
The Houses of Parliament they have sauce. It's tangy, spiced British brown sauce made for tomatoes, malt, vinegar, molasses, and spices.
Man, they have to have that one guy stand up. I forgot his name. I think it was Dennis Skinner. They got to have him stand up every once in a while and go, Dodgy Dave, to get the sauce. That's a part of the
spicy sauce.
Bro, that's a part of the sauce making process right there. Is that you got to have that parliamentary drama. Order, like all that stuff going on, and it makes the sauce. It's magic, really. But
yeah, it really is. Honestly, though, for me, butter and rosemary is the way to go on a steak. Why would you want to ruin the flavor of a steak by throwing some sauce on it to drown out the flavor of the steak? If you want to do that, just get something like cheap, like chicken or something like that, and throw the sauce on it. If you're going to get a steak and pay that kind of money for the protein, then enjoy the protein and actually taste it with just the butter.
I would agree. A steak is a steak to be tasted. I don't like smothering steaks in sauce, me personally. There was actually a time, it's confidential, unfortunately. I'm not even kidding, folks. It's actually confidential. We've been sworn into secrecy on this, but there was a time where we went out and we ate a steak with some folks, and it was pretty damn good, actually. Like, I think you remember that time, Matthew. That was one of the few times we've had a steak recently. It was actually
Very
quite
solid
tasty.
steak.
Yeah, really solid, actually. But sadly, we can't talk about why we were eating that steak or where we were and what we were doing. But beyond that, I do have to say a big thanks to you so much for the support. And also, I'd have to say that that poll was fire. Butter and rosemary is truly the best way to have a steak. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next super chat also goes to Hokey Redneck once again. He puts in another $50 support, and thank you very much, Hokey, for the second very massive support. And Hokey said, Matt, can you also add why contracts with minors and under duress are void, and why contracts with folks under the influence are voidable? And I do know that one. The crux of those issues right there, both under duress and with contracts with minors, is they cannot have a proper meeting of the minds because they're not of
sound mind.
Sound mind. Well, they're not. Age of majority is not the right word, but they're not of adult age. I don't know the exact word for it. I can't remember. But for example, if someone's under duress, they are not in the right state of mind to be able to enter a contract because they're under the influence of, let's say, drugs, alcohol, something like that. They can't have a proper meeting of the minds. Also, by the way, at least the way it was in Alabama, don't take this for legal advice, by the way. This is just me saying it. I'm a law school dropout, so take that for what it is. Contracts with minors can actually be canceled. That's what some people don't know, is those are actually cancelable contracts because they're not valid in the first place. So if someone enters into a contract with a minor, then technically you could cancel it. But of course, take that for what you will with a grain of salt. I'm not an attorney. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say Matthew is pretty much saying everything that I know about it. I think my legal knowledge is about the same as that or a little bit less than that. I gotta say, I just gotta say this is like a union requirement at this point. Every time we talk about anything legal, even one after the other, I cannot stand it, folks. I cannot stand it. It's good info to know, but it was hell on earth to learn it. And also the law school that we went to didn't really make it any better because the chairs were wildly uncomfortable. The rooms were always way too cold or way too hot. So you're sitting in uncomfortable chairs in a really hot or a freezing cold room. And then also it is the most boring class to go through. Like, there was this one professor that I had, folks, for this class called torts. Hated torts with a passion, but there was this one professor, and they were like dead inside. They'd be like, "Okay, class, anyone want to read the case?" And no one would answer. "Okay, how about Clarice? You want to read it?" And then they'd read it. They never stop them to add anything, and then they go, "Well, I guess that's an important thing to know about chattels, isn't it? All right."
I would love that
moving on."
class. I wish I had that one.
Oh, I hated it, dude. We didn't learn a
I
damn
had
thing.
Man, I had all the ones that were like rapid firing questions, and I had that one contracts professor I was just telling you about, the one that had like he was crazy running across the stage constantly and stuff like that. That guy loved to catch people off guard. Like he got satisfaction out of like cold calling people. That stuff had me on edge. Like it had me on bad edge. Like I was sitting there like every single day, like just waiting for that guy to like find me like not paying attention or something like that. And he would embarrass the hell out of people. Like he would call on people, cold call them, and they'd be like, so here's what we're talking about contracts. Marianne, what do you think? He would like do that super quick so he'd catch you off guard like on purpose. I'm like, how was that helpful? It's like, that's not helpful at all. I'm like, I've been into courtrooms and there is no situation where they're like doing something like that. You go in prepared for your court date. You don't just walk in there unprepared or like totally caught off guard. You know when you're going to get called up. So I'm like, I didn't find, I thought personally it was like hazing. It was like a form of hazing.
Man, man, whenever anyone would cold call on me and I wouldn't know, man, I would treat that thing like the United Nations, man. Like, like a permanent envoy. I would just make the announcement loud and clear. "I unfortunately do not know the information pertaining to this case." And I would just stop right there. Dude, I was like answering that stuff like a congressional inquiry. And that happened, I think, twice in 2 different classes. And I would just play it straight and they'd just be like, "Oh, okay." And then they just move on. I was like, man, like I was stressed as hell though. Before like, at the start, but after a while, folks, I was just like, damn, I can't read all of these cases for all these classes and also run the show at the same time. It's like I'm just gonna have to try and do this the best I can whenever I get the time. And if I don't know it, I don't know it. And so when they were like, "So what do you think?" "I do not know the information pertaining to this case," and that would be it. Like, it was the most cut and dry sort of an answer, and they would just accept it for what it was and just move on. And a lot of other people, they'd be like, That's how I'd be like, "Just tell them you don't know. It's fine. Like, maybe they'll, like, not.
They would dock points for that. Like they would dock off points in my classes for that. Like if you didn't know exactly what you were saying, and that contrast guy literally wanted so precise. Like he wanted you to memorize what model of car and color of car you were talking about. It's like, dumb, very dumb. I didn't like that. It was stupid. I'm like, how's this relevant at all to what we're discussing? Like, if you're discussing like a meeting of the minds or something, why do I need to memorize what color the car was they were debating about? It's unimportant.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that. Man, that's what happened in my psychology class in undergrad, is that they would do that there. They'd be like, "Okay, everyone, so we're talking about this really important thing about cognitive dissonance. And what color was the monkey Albert in the book on page 87?" I'd be like, "Why do I need to know that?" It's like, this has nothing to do with a theory, like of any psychological theory. It's like, why do I need to know the color of the monkey that was in the and by the way, it was its hair was brown, by the way. That was the answer. I got it wrong because I didn't look at the monkey and care about what it looked like. Like, I was like, why do I need to know what it looks like? But anyways, with that, I hope that does address it the best we can, But a big thanks to you so much once again for support, Hokie, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
I will say this real quick, though. That I saw someone in Kasia said there were a lot of great stories about this class you used to take. I missed them. I will tell you the one good story I have. It was actually not from law school. I really honestly don't have too many positive things to say about law school. But in college, during my undergrad, when I was doing political science, I believe, if I remember correctly, I was actually in my foreign policy class for political science. I actually, a really good professor in that class, too. I got along well with him. We were there, like, literally, when the Wagner coup started. I was in his class, and he was talking about something about foreign policy. I can't remember what it was. But I remember when the class got done, I walked up to him and was like, "Hey, professor, like, you know about the Wagner, right, in Russia, so you knew about it." And I was like, "They just invaded the place." So we sat there, and a whole bunch of students and the professor and me were standing around talking about the Wagner invasion. into Russia. I remember that distinctly. That was a cool moment from undergrad right there. But honestly, the positive moments disappeared fast. once undergrad ended, it disappeared quick.
Are you sure? Because I think we were live on air when that happened.
Now, I don't believe so, because I remember distinctly that I was standing around with the professor discussing that whole situation. It was like in the very, very beginning of it. I remember discussing it with the guy.
I don't think that could have happened, man, because that happened in like June, and I think we started law school in like August.
No, it was in undergrad. It wasn't in law school.
Oh, wait a minute, you're not talking about, oh, yeah, that did happen. Okay. Oh, dude, for some reason, man, the whole time you were saying that story, I thought you were talking about law school. I was like, I don't think we could have talked about that in law school. I was like, I think that it happened in long past by then, I think. Did it? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I was in undergrad. I think I was in my junior year at that point. I wasn't quite in my senior year yet. I think it was in my junior year when I took that course.
Yeah, I don't think I was actually going to classes those days when that happened, because I remember like we were running like breaking news streams. I don't think we did breaking news streams back then. I think we just did videos, and then we did streams later on the night, I think. Still, like we hadn't created the breaking news stream yet. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. I apparently was not following the story well. I thought the entire time Andy was still in law school there. He was actually talking about undergrad.
Yeah, nobody gave a damn about geopolitics in law school. Like, they were totally ignorant to it, didn't care about it, and just was not meshing with what I was discussing at all, to be honest.
Also,
once the novelty got over, like, people learned, oh, they run a YouTube channel. That's why they show up with bloodshot eyes every day with only like 3 hours of sleep every night. Once they got over the shock of that, then it turned to jealousy, and then people didn't want to talk at all at that point.
Honestly, man, this is one thing I absolutely loved about law school. I think that, like, they should just, like, end the war in Ukraine, because, like, people are suffering, Anyways, I did shrooms last night, and I'd be like, okay, so you think you're, like, well-versed to talk about foreign policy and you're winging life on, like, a wing and a prayer on shrimp? Like, I'm like, why the hell do you even, like, it's like, why in the world do you even think that would be a valid opinion? It's like, you don't even know a damn thing about it, and you just got done telling me you were literally high the whole night when you came up with your opinion, so you clearly weren't in a clear state of mind to think about it and then formulate an opinion. It's like, why the hell, like, I would always find that crazy that people will be in that sort of a state and then think that their opinion is as valued as others that, like, research it and heavily study it, rather than looking at some Time News articles while they're high and then coming up with an opinion. I never get those folks. But anyways, we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat goes to Joseph Carr, who puts in a $50 support. And thank you very much, Joseph, for that $50 support as well, and we do appreciate that. He said, this is for the premature ejection comment. A good one. I'm glad you enjoyed that one, Joseph. I came up with that one literally right on the spot, like I was thinking about. I was like, that's weird. Like, I don't know what Andrew said. It clicked in my head. I was like, that would be a good joke right there. Some say it's the best joke. Some say they've never heard a joke quite like that. Some people say they're getting tired of hearing jokes that good. I don't know. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to say, a big thanks to you for the support. I love to know that you like that joke, because honestly, I thought that was genius when he said it. I was like, how did I not think of that? I was like, oh my God, that was a great one. But a huge thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, by the way, LFG said bloodshot sober eyes. Yeah, I would show up to law school like basically dead every day, like barely getting any sleep, having to study for the class, like worrying the hell out the cold calls like the day prior, staying up all night trying to read the cases. I was actually trying to do it properly, and also run the whole channel with the Enforcer too. It was too much. Like, I was showing up every day. I couldn't even hide it.
Like,
I was
4
a
hours
wreck.
of sleep or less a day. Both of us were, actually.
Yeah, a complete wreck. Like, you could tell it. Like, if you saw me in person, like somebody took a photo of me in person showing up to law school, you'd been like, that person needs help. Like, they need some help. They look like they're in some deep trouble. And honestly, I was foul. I was in foul shape. Like, that lack of sleep and also the anxiousness of going through law school and then running an entire business, that was definitely not healthy. As Tom Exman's saying, it's not healthy. It was not.
No, it was not healthy at all. It was terrible. I remember we would get done with the show, and it would be 12:30 around that time, and we were trying to get them a little bit shorter to get to sleep just a little bit quicker and maybe get 15 minutes more sleep. But we would go to sleep at 1, and then we would have to wake up at 4 or so to get ready to go back to law school. It was hell on earth, and we did that for months, and it was terrible. I hate it. Like, there was never a time, folks, where I ever felt well rested. And when the weekends would come around, we would do the show, and then we would just sleep for like 16 hours straight or something on Saturday. And then we couldn't on Sunday. Well, it would be like Friday night and Saturday night. And then on Sunday night, we were back to only 4 hours of sleep. And then we'd have to get up and go back to law school and then do that again for another 5 days. It was terrible. I hated it every second of it. But a big thanks to you once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And we're on to the next one.
And we also have a $20 support from Charlie the Plane. And thank you very much, Charlie, for that $20 support. And we do appreciate that. He said, Marmot, but the fly recently got really into air fryers, please. Been lurking for many years and glad to see you guys growing.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support. And we will get the marmot. We will honor the request. Oh, hello there. Hey!
Oh, hello there, Governor. He really got into air fryers recently. He said, put it in the air fryer, get some stuff. I think air fryers are an excuse to make really, really unhealthy foods really quickly, Governor. It sounds like it to me.
Aw, man. Have you ever had an air fryer? I put weed in the air fryer and see if I can fry it up. Aw, man. That's while I go around harassing anyone I can get within reach. Aw, man. Put an air fryer on it. Aw, man.
I'll be honest. I've been kind of wanting an air fryer, but at the same time, though, I feel like it would enable me to eat like really unhealthy foods really quickly because it seems like the main stuff you throw in an air fryer is like, frozen fried stuff, like, like French fries, hash browns and stuff like that. It seems like the main thing you throw in an air fryer. So I guess it's healthier than like deep frying it. But at the same time, though, I'm like, I need to cook.
Yeah, honestly, I need to start cooking. Like more than just like throwing a Costco pre-made meal in an oven. Like I need to cook. But a huge thanks to you for the support. I hope you enjoyed the Alan and the Marmot segment. Alan and the Marmot. Alan the Marmot and the Fly are a historic segment on this show, and I thank you massively for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Gabby White, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Gabby, for that support. They said there's a lot of military transport aircraft activity here on the Central Coast, California, in the past month and today, refueling at small local airports. And I don't live near a base, but have you heard anything going on around here? And thank you.
Unfortunately, Northcom usually falls out of the periphery because we don't really cover it a lot because it usually is sort of a operational security thing to a small degree, but generally it just really passes over our radar, to be entirely honest, because it's not an important area. It's more so just a basing point for everyone to go to an important area. So unfortunately, I wouldn't really know a lot about it, and I'd have to sadly declare ignorance on that. But a big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Hokey Redneck yet again, and he puts in a 20 this time. And thank you very much, Hokey, for that support. He said this will only get you an 8-pack of Charmin. Honestly, though, Hokey, like Costco, that's another thing I forgot to mention. Costco has the huge pack of like paper towels and like the toilet paper you're talking about. They have the huge packs of that. It's actually not that bad. Like when you look at it, it's still crazy expensive, but it's not that bad compared to what you're paying at some other places, at least. But Enforcer, what say you?
I have to say a big thanks to you for the support because I actually need to get some paper towels myself. I'm almost out of those. But a huge thanks.
Wait a minute, you just went to Costco today and you didn't get paper towel?
No, I did. I wasn't thinking about it when I was in there. I was thinking about it when I left. I was like, man, I need to get some paper towels. And then when I got back, I was like, damn, I didn't get paper towels. If I gotten those, man, my grocery bill probably would have been like $240, probably. But a big thanks to you so much for the support, Hokey. And I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to W Subsea, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much as well for that support. They said, if FIFA can have a peace award, the LSA should issue an annual award for best source or best independent journalism or similar. It would be good for the LSA and raise awareness for truth in independent media. Honestly, the FIFA Peace Award, that's crazy work. That's crazy work right there. I don't know about a FIFA Peace Award. It seems like one of those things that someone like does like a participation trophy or something like that. You know, how they hand out like awards to everybody because everybody's got to have a trophy or something. It's kind of like one of those things. I'm not sure about that, but Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta be honest, it is a participation trophy, folks. I'm just not really one for that. I'm not really one for really a lot of awards, to be honest. I mean, even if we were offered an award at some point, like thanks, but it's not really what we're in the game for. We're in the game for the love of the game, not for the awards. And it's something else. It's something else, really. But we could make an award. I just don't really know how in the world we would get the candidates or the nominees to then give out the award. But I do thank you so much for the support and a very interesting idea. But I'm one, me personally, who's not at all for participation trophies, folks. I don't know why, because it's like awards should be given not by you just doing a thing. It should be done because you're good at doing that thing, one of the best. Like, what's the point? Like, if everyone gets a medal, then the medal doesn't even have any worth because everyone got one. It has to, you have to make medals rare because it makes it something that actually is showing that there's some sort of acumen or some sort of skill there behind this person who got it. That's what I think. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Atrocious, who puts in a 20 as well. Thank you very much, Atrocious, for that support. He said, if you're in Salt Lake, go to Beltex Meats, Whole Animal Butcher. Let me check here. We'll see here. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but it says permanently closed on the thing when I pulled it up just now. I was trying to see where it was, and it says on Google, at least, says permanently closed. Also, there appears to be a Reddit article. Oh, there's a lot of articles, actually. It looks like they closed, allegedly. I don't know if it's for a fact. I'm just reading off the internet. But it looks like they closed around October of 2024 or something. It says, after 10 years, it's time to hang up the knives and close up shop. So I think they're gone, actually, sadly.
Damn. That's terrible. We actually had a butcher shop in Birmingham. They had some really good sandwiches there. Let me go pull up butcher shop. Let's see if there is. I would have a feeling that there's got to be some around here because they have everything here. Yeah, they actually do have other ones. They have Don's Meats, Snyder Brothers Meats, Utah Natural Meat. They have Stan's Market. That seems more like a grocery store. Is it though? Is it though?
I feel like if Zuckerberg went to the meat business, I feel like it would be pretty successful. You know how he's on that whole binge about smoking meats and stuff like that a while back? Like Zuckerberg's Meats. I could see it in lights right now, like above the store. Zuckerberg's Meat. No, wait a minute. Zuckerberg's Meats. Excuse me. What the hell? Hey. But that would be pretty interesting. Honestly, though, that would be pretty good. Imagine if they had like a super modern, like sci-fi theme in the place too, where it's like ultra clean, like futuristic looking metal walls and stuff like that, like an insane asylum. Like that would be an interesting concept.
Man, you know what he could call it? The Metaverse.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, what the hell? You good? Like, bro, you good?
Hey, yo.
Hey, yo. Like, yo, what the hell, man? Like, but, man, they got to call it the Metaverse. Did you hear, man, that the Metaverse apparently only has, I think it's like 500 people on it now, regularly?
I hadn't heard that personally.
Yeah, I think there was an article that came out in a fairly large publication, I think yesterday, that said that there's only like 500 people on there or something, apparently, every day now. I was like, damn. I was like, that, I don't know if that's true. Like I would have to go and read the publication and also look at the publication to see if that was. But I was like, damn. I was like, if the numbers are that low, that's pretty wild right there. But beyond that, that would be an interesting sort of. Also, someone said Zeef. Like, yes, I'd like to buy some Zeef, please. Or better yet, how there's like the weirdly named like meat rub things, that you can buy at the store. They call it like Zucks Suck, and then it'd be like the meat rub deal. But
I don't know about that.
Look, man.
I think that's gonna be a hard pass. That's gonna be a hard pass. That entire sentence was jacked up.
Look, man, I'm not the one trying to sell it here. I'm just the one trying to come up with some ideas.
You just literally said out of your own mouth and your own words, Zucks Suck Meat Rub. Like, you don't ever want to say that series of words ever again.
No, I don't, but, I mean, you could name the product that. I have a feeling it would sell just by the absurdity of it.
I'm not sure if that's absurd. I think that delves into like, I don't like that at all.
Like for example, if the richest person on earth right now, tried to make a deodorant line, it'd probably be best to call it Elon's Musk. That'd make a lot of sense.
I think there is a cologne out there called Musk. I think. I'm not sure. I don't think he's involved with it. I don't think. I'm not sure, but I think there is a cologne out there called Musk.
Or better yet, folks, if another guy who was big in Microsoft, if you wanted to make like a iron rod gate sort of a company, it'd be best to call it Bill's Gates.
Damn.
Look, folks, if you ever want me to work on your marketing, you know who to call. but anyways, oh man, there's so many funny things that you could call, like you can come up with all kinds of things, and we'll just leave it at that. We won't keep going. But anyways, for that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Robert Krogan, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Robert, for that support. He said, "Good evening, Enforcers, and LSA, and snack on me."
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, and thank you for the snack on you. I'm actually getting quite hungry right now, so I think I'll have to have one of those soon. But a huge thanks to you once again, and with that, we're on to the next one.
And we also have a 10 from Thomas D'Orazio. And Thomas said, "Long live the LSA. Thanks for the great work, and throw some of this in the coffee fund."
And thank you so much for the support. Thank you for enjoying our work. And thank you for supporting the coffee fund. Because fresh coffee beans, whole beans, are always greatly appreciative. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And you know something, folks? I just came up with another one. Macron's macaroons. Get it? Because it's like Macron. Oh, man, I cracked myself up.
Oh, wait.
We do not want a world pastry. However. Oh, damn, bro. Oh, my God. Bro, I think everyone's ears are bleeding. Bro, that literally was deep. Right? Hold up. Let me see here. Hang on. Let me see if I can get it.
Oh, wait.
We do not want
Damn, I'm loud.
a world pastry. However.
Bro. That came through really bad.
Bro, it's how like you ate the mic, you went, oh. I was like, yo. I was like, man. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next one here, our next super chat, it's going to go to none other than Beaks Creations, who puts in a 10. Thank you very much, Beaks. They said, "Thanks, guys."
And thank you, Beaks Creations, for supporting this channel and helping us to keep this thing running. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Hey, Matthew, I got another one. Man, this was going to really knock the socks off of people, all right? Do you know the former president? What if he got into the business of selling bidets? Biden's bidets. See what I'm getting at there?
What are you trying to say there?
Or what if the current president was selling, like diapers, maybe adult diapers or something, Trump stumps.
Yeah, might come around to that for long. You never know. I think there's pretty much a little bit of every product out there with that brand name on it.
Oh yeah, anything you can put the name on. Like anything you can, literally anything. But you could do that one, or you could do let's see here. What's another one? Oh, I got another one for radios. If you're selling some radios, Mertz's Hertz or Mertz Hertz, you get it? Hertz like a radio frequency, you know what I mean?
That sounds like it could infringe upon like that car rental brand's, stuff.
Or if, for example, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom started a private military company, he could call it Starmer's Harmers. Just don't worry, folks. Whoville-looking mans, you can hire his Starmer's Farmers or Starmer's Harmers, and he'll go out there and he'll take care of it for you. A little knock on the head,
I'm not sure if he's cut out for sales. I don't know if that 1,000-yard stare is going to convince anybody to buy anything.
Probably not, bro. He says they said there, "Do you have dreams?" "I don't have dreams. I feel nothing." "Why is that?" "You ever killed a man?"
He said, "Don't look into my eyes. It'll suck your soul out your body." It's like, trust me, bro. I'm not looking at your eyes. Trust me. Like, honestly, dude's kind of scary. Like, if you really look at him, it's like there's nothing behind those eyes. It's like, what is up with him? He's like one of those people you can look at and you're not sure if there is a soul in there or not. You're like, It's like maybe so. Maybe he's just unusual. Maybe he's a bit quirky. Or something, but it's like, I don't know, like there's just something off.
Also, Matthew, I got another one here. Xi Ping Pongs.
Hey yo.
Get it? Ping pong, like in a ping pong store, for ping pong. It's a big thing in China. That'd be a good idea.
Wajao, go to the prison.
Go to prison, like you go. But beyond that, let's see. Man, I got another one. Maloney Filoni's bail bonds.
Why she gotta be in the bail bond business?
Because I had to make something rhyme with Maloney, so felony was kind of
Hey,
close.
yo?
Like, what?
Hey, yo?
Well, the prime minister's Filoni. Like, well, Maloney, I mean, don't you know?
Maloney. Filoni. Man, what what the hell are we
Listen,
doing?
man, I can't get down these Italian names. Like, I can't. It's very hard. But I got one. Let's see. Oh damn, we might actually get a cease and desist on that one. I was about to come up with one for Netanyahu, but
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that kind of trouble.
oh no, we don't. Heavens no. Let's see. Wait a minute. Hold up. I might have one. Might have one for Iran, man.
What about Modi's fine balonies?
You know, that's actually a pretty good one. Modi's
That could be pretty
bolognas.
good.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Is that made out of cow,
They would never
though?
call it Modi's. They would never call it Modi's Fine Air Force. That's for damn sure.
No, hell no. But isn't bologna made out of a cow or something?
Maybe.
Oh yeah, we're in the chopping block in India. Not like we're gonna be executed if we ever go there, so we can't.
We will find and punish.
We would find, track, and banish. But let's see.
It turns out they didn't do any finding, nor did they do any tracking, nor did they do any punishing. It turns out they actually got punished themselves.
Man, they got found, tracked, and punished, bro. It's like by the Pakistanis. Oh man. Man. Let's see. Goodness. Are there any other leaders that we could do? Damn, I'm having a hard time thinking of any. Shit. I'm having a hard time. Let's see. Maduro's Enduro batteries.
Yeah.
That's one. I mean, look, it's an option. Like, it's an option. Let's see. Man,
Peace forever.
No,
Have you
no,
heard that?
peace.
Have you
War,
heard
war.
Oh, peace. I only like peace. I only like peace. Please, peace forever. Have you heard that stupid like remix? He was dancing again. Like he has like a YouTube channel or something, or like a podcast. Not sure where it's like broadcast to, but he has a whole like studio setup. Actually, kind of a decent looking studio setup too. While his country's going broke, but he has like a podcast panel. He's in there like playing this remix of him saying peace forever, and he's like dancing to it and stuff. Like I think it was just yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a whole thing. He has like a panel of people, like he's running like a podcast or something. I guess it's for propaganda.
You know, man, that's kind of crazy. But you know, it's not as crazy as that one Australian politician who got asked if he had Lebanese descent. And he said, "Oh, don't say that. I punched blokes in the mouth for saying it." Like, nothing is crazy.
I still don't understand why he got so crazy about it. It's like, if you have Lebanese heritage, what the hell's the problem? He's getting all offended by it like it was an insult.
Listen, I don't get involved in people's proclivities. Let 1,000 blossoms bloom. But I'm not going to spend another minute on it because I'm the outlook.
that guy flips on an instant. Like it's like he's almost like he sounds bipolar the way he sounds. It's like I've never seen anybody like flip like that. Like that guy is like wild. Like the way he flips around. Like he'll be talking like totally normal 1 second. Like oh yeah, like you said, let 1,000 blossoms bloom for all I care. But I won't spend another minute on it because there's crocs down the outback spinning people around in their faces.
Bro, it's like, there's no crocs in the outback. It's desert. It's like, where in the world does the croc live out there? That's like in the reefs and down the coast. Like, that's around there. Like, it's not, they're not in the outback. How the hell could an alligator live out here in this hellhole? Look at this. It's literal desert. There's no crocs out here.
There's like pretty much every dangerous animals out here. Like this is literally the most dangerous place. Australia's got the dangerous stuff, like the most dangerous stuff lurking around in this place.
Man, dude, and Steve Irwin will wander around and be like, "Look, it's a deadly viper. I'm gonna punch it like and see what happens." And he would, and that thing would go crazy. Man, honestly, Steve Irwin was a real one, though. I got a lot of respect for Steve Irwin because he was crazy. Like he loved the wildlife, but he was also quite crazy with it. He'd be like, "Look, a rare kangaroo. I'm gonna run up to it. I'm gonna see if it'll kick me." Like, and then you run up to it and you start like poking it in the eye or something. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Atrocious once again, who puts in a 10. And they said Thailand's let's see here. Thailand's engineering culture. Oh, okay, I got you. Thailand's engineering culture and race culture makes them a worthy opponent. I don't know much about Cambodia, but look up rice tractor and boat racing in Thailand. CB4 Media, thanks to Channel of a Car Guy there.
And interesting. I do thank you for the support, and I thank you for sharing that. And what were we supposed to be looking at, Matthew? A rice tilla or something like that?
Yeah, we can't pull the guy's channel, sadly, because, you know, like showing other people's stuff on YouTube, that's like an instant beef. So we can't do that. But we can look at the rice tractor and boat racing. So rice tractor racing, they really race those things, apparently.
I see. So these are the machines that we saw earlier.
Oh, my God. They got flames coming out of it.
Man, pimp my rice tractor, man. Like, that's something
Put
else.
rims on them.
Man, pimp my ride. Man, gonna pimp my ride.
They got rims on the rice tractor with flames coming out the top. This is wild.
Dude, this guy is getting some speed.
Look at him. He's got his skin is like being pulled back. The wind is so bad. Like this guy's actually going like 50 or 60.
Man, dude, that's crazy. Like that is actually crazy. So then let me go pull up Thai boat racing. And whenever you put Thai in, you gotta be careful about pulling that up on screen because you don't know what the results could be. Oh my God, dude, what the hell?
Oh yeah, I would actually love to pilot that. That is a V8 a raw engine just sitting on the back of that boat. Now you better be careful though with that because if the U.S. catches you with that around Venezuela, you could be in deep trouble.
9er 27, this is 6-1, over. I have a narco boat moving at 70 miles an hour. That's
honestly, that's all it takes. Like, if you have a boat with a V8, like a V8 is a death sentence around Venezuela. Do not be caught with a big engine on your boat around that area.
Man, and then if you got hit with a hellfire, the quote-unquote Secretary of War is going to come out, man, I love killing narco terrorists, although we love life. Make sure to like and subscribe. Like, it's going to be something else. But this is crazy. I mean, look at him. I feel like that's deadly, though.
Yeah, I feel like if you mess up with that, you're finished.
Man, finished. Man, let's see. Oh, look, the engagement getter. like it's. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But dude, I'm not gonna lie. I would never ride in one of those boats, folks, because one wrong move, that thing is diving underwater with you in it, and you're going to die probably from the speed. But
diving underwater, no, more like it catches air in the front and flips up and flings you through the air, and then you slam into the water.
You know, I saw one of those like performance racing boats one time, Matthew, and it was going through the sea, and it hit a wave, and it did do what you're saying. It kind of flipped up for a minute, but then it tilted down, and it literally shot under the waves like a rocket, and it ripped itself apart from the speed, and I think it killed both of the drivers of the boat as well when it did that. Like, I saw that before. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I would never go high speed in a boat like that, you know, because that's very dangerous. You don't know what could happen. But anyways,
those have racing harnesses and stuff in them though. Like they're deadly, but they're also like not as deadly as just being in an open exposed, you know, boat like they were doing here in Thailand.
Yeah, you know, that's some wild stuff. Apparently, there are adrenaline junkies down there. Respect them for it, but I would never do it. But a big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep running. And we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to a Magic who puts in a 10. And he said, I think the Japanese should rebuild its military. And will this make China more aggressive or make them back off since the U.S. has a worse backbone than the World War II French?
I would say that it'd probably make the Chinese start building up their forces even larger. It would start an arms race in the area. Although that's inevitable, it's already happening right now pretty much. So Japan would only be adding to the amount of ships China would have to build to keep up. But I would say that Japan should certainly start, they already are technically, but they should certainly start rebuilding their military to a larger scale than what it has been historically since the end of World War II. So a big thanks to you so much for the support. I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to the Wolfman, who puts in a 10. He said, hey. Getting buried with even more stuff no one wants. Snow in southern Wisconsin. 2 to 3 inch estimates. Well, we might have more. And also thoughts on Phillip Rivers coming out of retirement if you follow NFL.
I unfortunately don't follow NFL. So I wouldn't really be able to talk a lot on that because we just don't really follow sports a lot, me and Matthew. But I do thank you for support, and also really interested to hear that y'all are getting snow up there in Wisconsin, the land of cheese, the cheese state, from what I hear. I got to thank you massively for the support, and also, actually, funnily enough, folks, Wisconsin, as an interesting side fact, the 10 wettest counties in the U.S., and I'm not talking about rainfall, I'm talking about that booze. Pretty much all of them are in Wisconsin. They're big drinkers in Wisconsin as a popular. Let me go pull that up. It's a really interesting sort of thing. Wettest counties in USA map. Let me go see if I can get this really quickly. Let's see. Here we are. Oh, no, that's not it. Wettest counties. Alcohol. Let me put that in. Oh, dang. Oh, here we are. Here we are. Heavens. I finally found it. This is a sliver. Here we are. So these are the driest counties and the booziest. So the ones in orange are the ones who really aren't the booziest. The ones in purple, though, and red, those are the ones that are boozed up. And as you can see, the whole state of Wisconsin is like that. Really crazy sort of effect. I don't know what it is. I think it's the majority German ancestry in that area that has led to a pretty heavy drinking culture. But it's crazy because, I mean, look at it. There's hardly any drinking done in the whole of Utah, in most of the South, actually. And there's some decent drinking going on elsewhere. But, I mean, they absolutely get crazy up there in Wisconsin. And I've also heard that they have the best drivers. No correlation. But I have heard the rumors that they have some fairly good drivers up there. But beyond that, I gotta say, really interesting here that y'all are getting 2 to 3 inches of snow. We actually got 6 to 12 inches of that here on the other side of the Wasatch Front from Salt Lake City a while ago. It was really cool looking at it. But a huge thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope that does address that quite well. But this is just the craziest thing, folks. I saw this map a couple of years ago. I was like, oh my god! And then I looked into it, and it's actually true. Wildly enough, that's just a crazy thing. So if you're in the business of owning a bar, Wisconsin is the place to go, apparently. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I'm not sure if anybody knows this or not, but you had mentioned something right there that made me think of the cede vault for some reason. You know that cede vault that's like in
Norway.
Norway, yeah, it's in Norway. It's got like all the seeds from around the world. It's like a doomsday type deal. Like if something happens to the seeds, they can go get it from there. It's like the Svalbard seed vault or something like that, I think. But they got that. But did you know where is the world's largest collection of genealogical records stored in a secure vault? Very secure. Where is it? Do you know where it is?
Oh, gee, it's probably in Israel.
What makes you say that?
Well, I mean, I think they track anyone with any sort of, I think it's like Jewish lineage, and then if you have it, you can pretty much apply for citizenship in Israel.
I think they do have something like that, but it's not the largest, though. The largest one is actually right here in Utah. Alexander Geraci got it correct. It's actually right here in Salt Lake, actually. The LDS Church, the Mormons, they have the world's largest collection of genealogical records. It's stored in a secure vault in Granite Mountain, which is one of the most secure places in the entire area, by the way. It's a vault dug right into Granite Mountain. They have a bunch of microfilms and microfishes, or fish, whatever you want to call them. I'm not from that era, so I don't know how to pronounce it. But they have a whole bunch of records of genealogy in there. One of the largest ones in the world.
Is that so that way they can do like the whole ritual where they like bring someone into the Mormon faith although they're dead? Is that the whole thing with that?
I'm not really sure about that. I'm not super familiar with like what the Mormon beliefs are, to be perfectly honest, but it could be.
Man, I would have sworn that it was the Israelis because I think the Israelis have something similar going on to where if you have any Jewish ancestry and it's a large enough amount on your mom or dad's side, they'll go through like a genealogy record that they have to double check and make sure, and the DNA test you. And if you do, I think you can go and get citizenship in Israel if you're Jewish enough, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Interesting. Also, by the way, show them a picture of the Granite Mountain vault real quick, by the way. It's actually pretty cool. Like it looks unreal, like when you really see it.
Granite Mountain Vault.
Oh, go get ready for this right here. It doesn't quite match up to the Svalbard seed vault, but this is pretty cool.
This one?
I believe that is it. I believe so. It's one of those. I don't know the entrance, what it looks like. I know what the interior looks like. There's the picture of it right there at the top, the second one.
This one?
Yeah, that's it right there.
Man, looks like the post office. It kind of looks like the safety deposit boxes at the post office.
Yeah, but they got this very secure. It's the fact that right there says the world's most secure buildings. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it looks pretty secure. It's in a mountain.
Is it
It's like a military base.
Is it like operated by the Mormons?
Yeah, I think it's owned by the LDS Church, I think.
So do they have like armed
I
guards and
think.
stuff?
I don't know about that. I don't really know much about it other than just seeing the headlines about it and also seeing some pictures. That's all I know.
Where is Granite Mountain around here anyways? Granite Mountain. Utah. So it's, oh shoot, dude, we drove by that.
Oh, that's what that road leads to.
Oh my
I didn't know
God.
that.
No way. So that's the one with the gate.
Oh.
Dude, that's the
So
one with
I
the
thought-
gate right here.
I thought that was like somebody in their mansion. I was about to say, I was like, well, how did they get like how'd they get like their mansion built up there? But okay, it's the vault.
Man, this is like the Mormon version of the Bat Cave, I think. Like with how it's set up, like it's in the side of a mountain. What's the map doing? That is crazy though. We drove right by it. We had no clue. But that's right here.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
That is
I wonder
crazy.
what it takes to get in. Like, do you have to be like a certain? I don't know how the Mormon the whole thing works, but it's like, I think there's like different tiers or levels. Hopefully, I don't sound ignorant here because I don't know much about them. But I think there's like different tiers or levels. I think maybe it's probably reserved for the highest levels. I don't know how that whole thing works.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of some interesting fact about the Mormons. I just saw this today. You know that survivalist guy, Matthew, on YouTube who used to do like the camping survival videos, and he quit a little while ago?
He's back, by the way.
He is back, but he's also been put onto some sort of a special council for the Latter-day Saints here in the area. He's like one of 12 people on the council, and they published the stuff, and his picture was in like the 12 people in the council, and then everyone was like, "Wait a minute, is that why you like quit for a little bit or something?" I don't know about the speculation beyond it, but apparently he's a member of the Latter-day Saints.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. But interesting stuff nonetheless. I guess he lives around here somewhere. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Waka Waka What. And thank you very much, Waka Waka What, for that $20 support. And we do appreciate that. He said, to raise awareness about pressing issues, the destruction of Russian bobcats, Costco enchiladas in the back. And if time allows, discuss another serious topic, the logistics of purchasing Costco baby oil in bulk. No Senor Diddy. Also, by the way, just a disclaimer, Costco said specifically they do not sell baby oil in bulk. They made that perfectly clear. And after Diddy made the whole thing about, apparently, allegedly buying some baby oil or something like that. So that's a whole thing. But Enforcer, what say you?
Man, dude, after that happened, man, he sat there in his head and he heard, every move you make, every step I take, I'll be watching you. He's like, oh no, I'm screwed. Like, he's like, it's over. It's over, man. Costco came out and said, we do not bulk sell baby oil. Like, it's like they had to even step in. Man, it's bad when Costco intervenes. But I will say that Costco baby oil, it's non-existent. It actually doesn't exist. And I went to Costco today. I can confirm. I went through every single aisle in that store to make sure that I wasn't missing anything, and I missed the paper towels. They did not have baby oil. But I do thank you massively for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one is going to go to Atrocious, who puts in a 10. He said, if that is the same vault at Big Cottonwood Canyon, and yes, it appears it is, he said that they have armed guards with shotgun and MP5, according to Atrocious. They said you have to request a week in advance to go in and be a customer. A customer? Like when you say a customer, what do you mean?
Mr. Squidward, they're customers.
Man, I'll tell you what, that entrepreneur side of me lit up just then. I said customers. Well, what do you mean?
As I like to buy 10 personal records, please. All right, that'll be $9,000. 9,000, man, in this economy, shoot. But very interesting to hear. I thank you for the support and sharing that. And I wonder. I mean, this is well paved out here. It's just interesting to me. It's very interesting. But anyways, thank you so much once again for support, and we're on to the next one.
And Atrocious puts in another 10 and says, I support logical debate.
I do too. It's It's just that there's a lot of people who believe that they're master. Well, I'm not going to say it that way. I just realized that was going to come out really badly. There's a lot of people who think they're really good at logically debating, and then they aren't. And I wish that some people would start to realize that, because it doesn't take a lot. It's not like you're born with the ability or not. It just takes researching and understanding and critically thinking to be a good debater. There really isn't a lot of people out there like that. Like, when I listen to a lot of debates, I'll be thinking, oh, you can get them with this. And then they'll bring up something goofy, and it's like, why would you say that? Like, there's this great one. Like, there are a lot of people, folks, out there right now that I'd love to debate, but we can't because it would get political. And I'm talking about everyone on every end, because I sit there and listen to some folks in these like arguments, and there's this one guy recently who was like, retirement is stupid, there should be no retirement. And I'm like, why do you say that? Like, and like, that would be an easy debate to honestly win. But a big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And not only that, I got you, Matthew, by the way. I saw it. But not only that, most importantly, there are, like, a lot of people don't understand, like, a lot of the stuff that people argue about, especially in politics, there is no clear answer, because it's all through moral ambiguity, and people have different moral baselines and sets, so you'll never find anyone who agrees on that stuff. But on empirical stuff, like foreign policy, where there's set inputs and outputs, a lot of people don't really know what they're talking about. And like, like that clown earlier, when I talk about importing Argentine beef is going to undercut U.S. beef, and then they sit there and say, you're wrong, and then you're like, well, why am I wrong? So you open it up for a debate, and then they just keep going, you're wrong. It's like, that's not even debating, that's just being an idiot, and not even knowing what you're talking about. And also, folks, one other important thing to tell everyone is that if you tell someone they're wrong, you have to tell them how they're wrong. Like, you can't just say they're wrong and then double down on that afterwards. You have to explain how someone's wrong. Otherwise, you have no clue either, and you're just saying that to either sound like a contrarian, or you just don't like hearing the truth, and so you're going to tell them they're wrong, and you have no clue why that would even be the case. But a big thanks to you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well, and we're on to the next one.
Also, by the way, sometimes debates turn even uglier than that, by the way. I'm not sure how many people saw the Twitter post I put out, but some people ask us all the time. They say, do you guys get death threats? And Andrew always answers the question and says, oh, yeah, we definitely do. If y'all want to see an example of one, by the way, I actually posted one on the Twitter page today to give everybody an example of what we're talking about here with us. If you want to show the folks, by the way, you can show them the thing. It's got some foul language at the very top of it, so you can look it on Twitter if you want to make a determination about this or not. You see it?
Yeah, we'll show it. There you go. There's a death threat. This one we got today.
So here's one right here. First of all, this guy didn't even use his full name, which is pretty cowardly. Number two, he sent it to the customer support email for the merch store. That's problem number two. So a very hostile customer, which I don't even know if this guy is a customer of the merch store. I would probably imagine not with the language he's using, but you can see the foulness that he put here and the little death threat that he added to it. So, this is the type of stuff, folks. Like, this is the stuff right here that you just don't see. This is hidden from the public view right here, this type of stuff right here. I will say this, though. Never until my last days will I ever be intimidated by someone named Ronald that lives in Canada. Ever. I won't. Simply won't. The guy told me, by the way, that he lives in Canada. And I said, that's a shame. That's disappointing, actually, because I thought you were going to be a Russian or a Belarusian or something, and I was going to at least be able to brag about that on the air, that I was threatened by a Russian. But I'm being threatened by a Canadian. No offense to Canada or something like that, but I was kind of like hoping it would be a Russian or something like that. So I got threatened by a Canadian. And also, by the way, he said F the West, and he lives in the West. What the hell's wrong with this guy?
You see, folks, here's the paradigm of being in the position that we are on the internet. There's people in the chat who say that we're communist liberals, and then this guy calls us a Nazi fascist pig. It's like we get called everything. Nobody knows what we are because we aren't any of them. So they do that, and they have like a seizure, and then they just throw one out at us, whichever one they don't like. And like, honestly though, folks, this is nothing new at all. This is just par for the course. But this is this is how it is every day. We get a death threat every once in a while. This is the newest one. But it's nothing new, folks. And on top of that, I never take these seriously, because most of the time, very seldomly has anyone ever actually tried to physically follow through on getting close enough to us to try and get us. It's been quite rare. Has happened, but it's been incredibly rare. So, this clown, whoever this guy is right here, he's probably going to never follow through on this. And if he does, that'll be much to his misfortune. But still, it's absolutely...
You gotta actually... The ones you got to actually worry about, like, are the ones who never say anything. Like, the ones who never say anything and simply just show up and try to do something, that's the one you got to look for. The ones that are running their mouth like this, it's like, hell, if you feel so strong and stuff like that, why are you emailing me about it? It's like, what are you going to warn me ahead of time that you want to come down here and do something? It's like, what kind of person are you if you're trying to actually get something done to, like, warn me ahead of time? It's dumb. Also, by the way, folks, I know some people are like, that is awful. Honestly, it's awful that someone would think like this, but at the same time, though, it doesn't really cause fear for us anymore. We've dealt with this for years at this point. Some people may get that and start freaking out. And now, obviously, if someone showed up, I'd feel a bit different. But they're not showing up. They're Canada, wherever the hell they're from, whatever. It's just some another idiot running their mouth.
Oh, we've had people try and show up, the fake pizza delivery men, all that business. But at the end of the day, folks, the truth is that that guy's name is Ronald, but we're the one that at the end of the day, if anything was trying to be followed through, I gotta say that we make some pretty good ground beef. And it's not Mongolian, it's all American. But still, it doesn't scare us at all at this point. It's par for the course. We've been getting death threats ever since we started doing this. We've been doing this for 4 years now. So it's basically a part of the business. If we got scared about that these days, that would be kind of concerning because we've gone through hundreds of these over the years. So, it just is what it is. But, whenever anyone's like, you don't get death threats, come on, that's a legitimate one right there. And some of the ones in the past, they would get super detailed. They'd be like, you live at such and such address, and they'd get it correct. And they'd be like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to take out your, I'm going to, try and beat you down or force you to surrender by holding your parents hostage, and then I'm going to execute them, and then I'm going to execute your dogs, and then I'm going to get you. And, they would go through the whole list of stuff. That one was fairly vague, but some of them got incredibly detailed too. It's like, well, damn, they actually did their homework. Unfortunate that they probably won't be well armed enough to follow through, but it's a fairly interesting sort of an imposition there to suggest that they do something like that.
True.
Absolutely true. But also, folks, by the way, we take every security precaution possible. That's why we don't tell anyone what we're doing most of the time in the day, and if we do, it's well after we're done with it. Most of the time when we tell y'all we've done something today, it was actually done 2 days ago. We change our routes, we basically go through every single security procedure that one could if you were in intelligence. We basically try and do all of that because there are a lot of whack jobs out there, and I'll be honest with y'all, I don't want to get offed by some whack job, just to be entirely honest with y'all. But with that, I hope that
also Vari said, "What's your threshold for contacting law enforcement about it?" I'll be honest with you, I've rarely ever contacted law enforcement over anything. If we feel threatened enough, there are people we can speak to law enforcement to deal with it. Like, we do know people that can deal with it without having to go through, for example, just calling up the FBI or something like that. But at the same time, though, I'm not trying to waste their time with it. Like, most of these people are just crazy that send stuff like that. So I'm not trying to waste, resources and stuff with something that's obviously not a legitimate, credible threat. You can kind of get a gist for it after a while if someone's serious or not. Like, someone who's riding like a schizophrenic like that or something, they're obviously not a real threat. Most people like that is like to lash out to get attention, and then they move about their business. You can kind of get a gist for if someone's a real threat or not. Like, you can kind of feel it out a little bit. But not a real threat, though. Like, 99% or not.
Yeah, 99% of them are just practically jokes. But if they're not jokes, contacting law enforcement is basically useless. Like, in my personal experience, at one point, we were getting enough death threats from the hot dog men people that we actually contacted the FBI about it, and they never got back with us. So, it was what it was. There was really no point in doing that. But anyways, folks, we got to get to some more questions. Mandy, how many do we have left?
So we have about 10 left.
Oh, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. We are overtime, though. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Ed. And Ed puts in a 10. And thank you very much, good sir, for that support. He said, Irish Ed here. Don't mess with beef. In the 80s, England killed every cattle because of mad cow disease. And I've never had Kobe or Wagyu beef. And don't destroy my dream. And LSA. And also FYI, best channel ever and GOAT.
Hey, and thank you so much for the kind words, Irish Ed. And that actually did happen back in the UK. That's kind of what we were trying to avoid here in America, was by taking the infected ones and killing them off quickly so that way they didn't infect the rest. But I got to thank you massively for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we would never be able to make this channel possible. And honestly, I want those 2 steaks as well, like a Wagyu, and all. I really want to try them all, but they're expensive. Like, they're very expensive. But a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Richard Philpott, who puts in a 10. And Richard said, check out the Legends Motorcycle Museum in Springville, Utah.
The Legends Motorcycle. Is this like the Barber Motorsports of the state? Motorcycle music. Here we are. Oh, shoot. This is down near Provo. Oh, wow.
Oh, those are old.
Wow, dude.
I think Barber Motorsport in Birmingham has them beat. I will say that. Barber Motorsports is pretty solid. It's in Birmingham. It's like one of the largest motorcycle museums in the country. That's probably the coolest attraction anywhere in Alabama. It's probably Barber.
Dude, these are sick, though.
I'm not a fan of these really old ones, I'll be honest. I'm a motorcycle person, but not these. These are a little too old.
What? Dude, these are legit. Bro. Man, these are like legit cool to me. I think like I like the old styles. I think the old styles look cool, and like the Harley Davidson WLAs, pretty neat. But a big thanks to you so much once again for support. Hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Juan Shear TV, who puts in a 10. And they said, Sykes make you think. I do research on them. They list off a couple of people here. And they said, and way more people like scientists have claims that Sykes shaped research and inventions we know today. And also when you say Sykes, by the way, like when you say Sykes, you mean like people that claim to be psychic? I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what you mean. But Enforcer, what say you?
I thank you for the support, but if you're talking about psychic people, the CIA looked into trying to recruit psychics, and it turns out that they're completely useless. It's like hit and miss, best of luck thing. Like, honestly, I think from their results, they did worse than the people who were just working off of blind luck, from what I remember. But a big thanks to you so much for the support. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And we also have a $10 support from Atrocious once again. And he said, at one of my previous roles, my job was to make sure that assets that secure the internet cryptography for root CA keys for internet encryption. Also, very cool, by the way. I appreciate your work very much. You keep the boogeymen out of our stuff, so I appreciate that. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I'd agree. A big thanks to you for the support. Really cool job to have. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one here is going to go to Taco 2 weeks. I already said it, but he put in a 5 and said, I gotta sleep, but read the new national security strategy just released by the U.S. and there is zero ambiguity. Read in your own time if too political for the stream.
Oh, we've already read it on stream, actually, and we were not fans of it at all. But a big thanks to you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that well. And we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Jack Ray, who puts in a 5. He said, thank you for explaining several complicated conflicts in a single stream so many times over the years.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all. That's our job, and we're always happy to do it. And we're always proud to know that a lot of people get a great deal of value out of it. So a huge thanks to you once again, and we're on to the next one.
Also, by the way, Wanshear TV did clarify what he was talking about. Sadly, Wanshear, we can't discuss that on YouTube too much because I'm not sure how to navigate the rules about discussing that because it's a little bit strange with YouTube on that topic. So I understand what you're saying now, by the way. We apparently misunderstood him, but I'll have to save that one, though, for the YouTube rules. But thank you very much for that support once again. And we also have a 5 from Thomas Air. And Thomas said, appeasement of Putin, appeasement of China, and is the U.S. just a modern-day version of Neville Chamberlain? It doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes.
Yes, I would say that we largely are, unfortunately. Very sad thing to think about. But a big thanks to you so much for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Jack Ray once again, and he puts in a 5 and said, Aero Agra for those Russian moments.
I suppose so, I suppose. But a big thanks to you so much for the support. And we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to JB Nijalki. Thank you very much, JB, for that $5 support right there. And I think I got it right. He said, is NATO gutless? or letting it draw out because Ukraine is fighting an effective proxy war, exhausting Russia with no Western casualties. And what are your thoughts? And LSA?
I would say at this point we're largely getting into the territory of gutless, more so than playing it smart, because because of all of the fractioning. I mean, it's what we talk about every night on air, but it's getting more into the category of being gutless and spineless these days. But a big thanks to you so much for the support. I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And we have a $5 support from Andrew Honeycutt. And he said, I don't like it when the Five Eyes are compromised, and the best alliance in history should not be thrown away for the sake of any leader, and LLT, LSA.
And I would agree.
And Andrew, I can tell you, me personally, I don't think the Five Eyes is going to be compromised personally. That is one group there that will probably never fracture. NATO may fracture, but Five Eyes won't, in my personal opinion. That intel sharing is something there that none of those countries really wants to just do away with, and they need that over NATO. But in my opinion, they need both. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would agree with Enforcer Man on that. I don't think the Five Eyes will ever shatter over what's going on. If anything, they'll probably continue on no matter the difficulties, because there is a great deal of value that everyone receives from having such a close relationship in the Five Eyes group. On every end. So I would thank you so much for the support. And also, by the way, folks, if y'all don't know what the Five Eyes are, the Five Eyes is an intelligence alliance amongst 5 countries. That includes the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct on that, Matthew?
I believe so, but Five Eyes is symbolic of the eyes or the intelligence agencies. So it's basically like a euphemism for 5 intel agencies because it's 5 from those countries.
Let's see here. Yeah, it actually is Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Britain, and the United States, but it's pretty much a major alliance of the intelligence organizations that we have in those 5 countries, and it provides us with a great deal of benefit, particularly because the United States is generally the bulk lifter because CIA has the largest budget, but because of our communication with MI6 and other agencies that are more so operations related in their doctrine, more so than just intelligence gathering, that we can see that there's a little bit more of the strong arming done through the other intelligence agencies sometimes. And also on top of that, they are quite resourceful, like in the MI6 and other intelligence agencies, in their own ways of gathering intelligence that we sometimes aren't able to do. But with that, I hope that does address that, or really don't want to do. But with that, I hope that does address that the best that I can. But I don't think that alliance will be fracturing. Hopefully not, at least. But a huge thanks to you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
You know, oddly enough, real quick fact here, even though MI6 has a much smaller budget than the CIA does here in the United States, MI6 is actually a lot more flexible than the CIA. There's a lot less steps of bureaucracy that you have to go through to get intelligence operations off the ground with MI6. So that's one fascinating thing. Also, let me get this bot out of here. Right there. But the CIA has tons of bureaucracy. Like if an agent wants to do something in the CIA, you got to go through like every single level of bureaucracy to get approval for like an intel op or things like that. MI6 is not the same way. They're much faster to deploy operations than the CIA. Although when they finally do launch it though, it's not as well funded as a CIA intel op, which is fascinating. But MI6 is really competent though. Like don't underestimate them at all. They're very competent.
Oh yeah, they are incredibly competent and a lot more lean, really, than the U.S. CIA, which makes them a lot more maneuverable and flexible to the situation. The CIA, a lot like the U.S. military in a way, is so large that it's a bit of a monster to be able to try and move around and get onto certain projects and operations. But the MI6 is wildly efficient and effective. Really, honestly, there is a load of Western intelligence agencies that are incredibly effective. The French actually have a huge amount of them. It's just that they're never talked about. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Econ Professor, who puts in a 5. He said, meat prices got you down. He said, put a certain bumper sticker on your car. And in Montana, you can keep your road kills without buying a license. And it's true.
And that's really, I think that's true in most states, actually. I think it was true in Alabama, at least. But I do think
you have to get a license to keep a roadkill?
I think sometimes in some states you do, actually.
That's insane. A license for roadkill. That's government overreach.
Yeah, it is. And also on top of that, it's like, that's such a hit and miss thing. like with roadkill, because you get hit it and cause traumatic internal injuries, and like the stomach acids taint the meat because the stomach ruptures. It's like that's not even a predictable way where someone be like, man, to get around that hunting season, I'm just gonna run over a deer. It's like you could completely taint the meat from the internal injuries from slamming the thing with a car. So it's like obviously no one's gonna, well, unless if they had no sense, which might be the case, but obviously no one's gonna go around and do that all the time. It would be inefficient. But beyond that, I do say thank you so much for the support, and that's very interesting to hear. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Plazat, who puts in a 3 and said LSA.
Hey, and LSA, and a huge thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And we also have a 2 from 535 Medic, who said, so if the United States just erased the temple out of the picture that they're fighting over between Thailand and Cambodia, do you think they'd quit?
Oh no, then they'd be claiming that they need the lands because they're historic. It would be something along this line. It would never stop. There's no way to end the stuff. The only thing we can do is curb who's going to be the winner and the loser, and that's about it. And that's what the current administration just doesn't understand. The current administration acts like we're playing The Sims or some shit on admin mode, where we can just kind of do what we want and get the results we want. That's not how the world works. It's kind of a little bit crazy with that, considering that the president is apparently, had to file some certain kinds of articles that would say that he's out of money multiple times, because then, you gotta understand from his personal life experience, sometimes you just get screwed and you really can't control a lot of the external variables. You just end up going, broke or something, or you end up just kind of having to ride with the flow and hope that you end up getting out of the river in a nice spot. But anyways,
also, by the way, just a quick correction, by the way, that individual has never filed for personal bankruptcy, just to make that perfectly clear. Also, by the way, I don't want to comment on anything else, but to make it clear, though, he's never filed for personal bankruptcy.
I want to make that clear as well. He hasn't, but there is some information out there elsewhere about certain things with that, but I don't know the particular details. But outside of that, I would have to say a big thanks to you for the support. I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Marc-Andre Burnett, who puts in a $1 support. And thank you very much, Mark, as well, for once again supporting the channel.
And thank you so much for the support, Marc-Andre Burnett. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And it is now time to jump into our live chat questions proper. And first of all, starting off with our Morse coded cutters, we had Paul Schultz, Kevin J, Mason Miami, Joni Dog, Norm Pritchett, Araba Garbo, Her Royal Fluffiness, Kush Caberteric Sire, and Brian Blairstown. They said tonight's Morse code decipher says it's something else to watch the world tick these days. Anyways, it's Christmas. LLT, LSA.
And that is the sound of money. Y'all got that down on the nail? That is the Morse code message of the night. And I gotta say, a big congratulations and a huge congrats for making sure to get that Morse code message correct again. The Lee Springer Signal Corps has gotten that correct time and time again, and it truly is amazing and incredible to know that we are able to continue to hear the Morse code message. Also, Matthew, I had to just make sure to go and double check to see the exact details of the statement that I made, and it actually appears that, at least from what I'm seeing, folks, this is what I'm seeing, of course, it appears to have been some form of business bankruptcies for like properties or hotels, if I'm not mistaken. There is none other than a source of the current Secretary of State who wrote this article, apparently, about the bankruptcies. So that appears to be the case, just to make sure that we get the details a little bit more particular on that, so that way we're not misquoting anything here. But anyways, with that, we are on to the live chats. But due to overtime constraints, we'll only be able to gather 3 live chats, and then we'll be rounding out the stream for the night. And so we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Warren Edgar, who said, why on earth is the Sawalki Gap still open?
And it's still open because it's a part of NATO and it's a part of a border between 2 EU states, so it remains indefinitely open. So I hope that does address that well, and with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to C. Springer, who said, is China driving the war between Cambodia and Thailand?
And who's driving the war between the two?
China.
Oh no, this is an ongoing dispute that they've had over borders for decades. So it's a natural, organic sort of an escalation. So I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the final question of the night. And so who is like the last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is The Bearded. He said, I wonder if Japan is going to threaten to kick the United States military off of Okinawa or not, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did.
They most likely wouldn't for now. It will probably take a complete collapse of diplomatic relations for that to happen, and that's probably going to be a pretty good bit down the road. But for now, they're certainly going to start becoming unhappy, and they're probably going to stop any further cooperations on U.S. projects that are being conducted in U.S. territories, possibly. That'll probably be a highly likely outcome of what's going on if it continues. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And, of course, folks, we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I've got to thank each and every single one of y'all massively for enjoying this channel tonight and of course watching. We had a peak viewership tonight of 10.8 thousand people. That's a lot of people, and 85,000 people have watched this stream before it ended. We're entirely honored and greatly appreciative of y'all enjoying this channel and watching it, because it is always y'all, the Lee Spring Army, who considers this to be your primary source of news, and we're always honored to be able to tell the news to all of y'all. We will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news from around the world, and if there is a short war summary to be made, I, the Enforcer, will be the one making it. And so with that, folks, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe. Slava Ukraini, Ram Slava, long live the Lee Spring Army, and long live the Republic, and Chili Bowl.
And with that, folks, thank you all for joining us once again tonight. And that caught me off guard there. I wasn't sure what that was about, but yes, Chili Bowl. And also, thank you all to the 85,000, excuse me. That really threw me off guard with the Chili Bowl thing. It really got me good. But huge shout out to the 85,000 people that joined us tonight. 85,000 plus, that is. And we will see you all tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern on the next Nightly War News stream, and midday as well, for a short video if there is enough news to cover. And the Enforcer will make that one if there is a video to make. But in the meantime, though, we appreciate every single one of you for joining us once again tonight, and we'll see you all tomorrow. And of course, Slava Ukraine, Heroem Slava, get some rest, and good night.